Welcome everyone to Saturday Evening Chats. This is episode 130, and we have with us the co-host extraordinaire, Mr. DM Foss. Welcome.
Hello. I thought we were live, but I was late, so I thought you. I dropped a link when you get to GWeb, so you can explain the Indiegogo. Yeah, I thought you were already going when I came in.
Nope, we were just in the back chat BSing. We hadn't hit the 3 o'clock hour yet. Then we ended up starting like a minute or two late. So, first in the room tonight was Rob D, the New York Outcast. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the link. Thanks for joining us, folks.
Yeah, sorry I didn't make it on your panel. I didn't realize you had sent me a link, and for the first 3/4 of your show, I was napping.
Oh, no problem. Thankfully, Moo bailed me out, so I was struggling pretty hard there. So definitely easier when you got a panel. So especially when you come into it not really having anything to talk about. So apologize for that show, folks, but they can't all be winners, I guess.
Last but not least, we have Mr. GWebs, or Gun Websites. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for the link. Thanks for hosting.
You're welcome. So, I know you have a project going on. You want to give us a little heads up on it, like what it's about and how we can help you. I do have a link pinned at the top.
Hold on. Thanks for that. So yeah, we've got an Indiegogo, a crowdfunding campaign going to raise funds for an embroidery machine, a machine to make patches, embroider logos and stuff on hats. And it's a machine that's owned by our friends in California who are raising funds to do some projects of their own, and they're willing to sell it to me for a decent price. And I'm raising funds to get the machine and get over to California and get it. So we've got a campaign that's been going for about a month now. It's last time we looked, getting close to halfway there, and it's getting into the last couple of days. It'll end Monday. So it's the last couple of days of the campaign. So thanks for helping to spread the word on it, and for everybody that's been participating in it and helping to get the word out. That's what it's all about. I need about 140 people to participate. We're at 55 right now. So about a third of the way, I guess, right, to make that project happen. So thanks for the help. And I guess I also mentioned when we're talking about this, since we're talking to people who are interested in being activists and people that do projects like YouTube channels and blogs or podcasts and things like that. If anybody's curious about how to do a crowdfunding project, I'm happy to explain the nuts and bolts, the strategy, how they work, and some best practices. I've had a whole bunch of them now, dozens of them, both successful and failures, and you learn from all of them. So I'm happy to pass that information along for anybody that's got a good idea or a project or some kind of product and you're interested in seeing it come to life. That's one of the coolest things about crowdfunding, is making something that never existed before and maybe no one asked for, make that happen. And sometimes it's the beginning of something awesome, and sometimes it just satisfies, scratches an itch. But it's a fun way to be capitalists, and it's a fun way to use the internet and to realize the power of a community, the power of a group of people. When you think about, if 1,000 people put $5 together, what can you do with that $5,000? These platforms let that become a reality. So if anybody's interested in that kind of stuff, I'm happy to help with that too. But I'm sure we can talk about it more. But thanks for the time to talk about it, and for everybody that's been helping with it in different ways. It all is all appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand about the crowdfunding thing. Well, not fully on, because I've been doing the crowdfunding with Give Send Go. And there's a lot of great people out here, that have helped, and definitely, I would love to see you get the new machine, because, I've got a patch addiction, and I was always buying your one-offs or, some of your AK patches. Loved those. So I'd love to see you get back into, creating more of those.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I've had the patch machine I had before, the embroidery machine I had before, had one color, one needle. So it just meant whenever I started making them, I would just pay somebody to come up with the design or make the file, I guess you could say. Here's what I'd like to have a patch be. And then you have to tell the machine what to do. So that file that you put into the machine, I used to pay to have that created. And at some point, I wanted to have more input to that than just pay somebody to have a final product. I wanted to be part of the creative process. Plus, I was cheap, and I didn't want to keep paying somebody to do that. So I figured out how to use the software. And nothing's free. You still got to buy the software. But once I knew how to use the software, I was able to take pretty much anything and turn it into a patch. But with a one color machine, you end up having to make some compromises, at least for time. If you'd like to have 10 colors in there and it's going to go back and forth, black and white and black and red and black and white and black and white and red, you're probably going to make some design compromises so that you can go black, white, red and not have to go back and forth 100 times. But with a machine that can do all that automatically, you can play more with the design. You can get more elaborate with the details and stuff. And that's what I'm looking forward to as well. Like, not just being able to make patches again, but it should take them to another level where I can, just basically go nuts with the design, and, it's faster too. So time will be less of an issue.
Yep. So let me run down the side chat real quick. So first in, besides me, was New York Outcast, G-Webs, Reloader 762, Burnaby Sanchez, Tactical Fud, Georgia Trapping and Fishing, Mr. Craig is out there, Mike White, 2A Advocacy, pretty sure I said Tactical Fud, but I'll say it again, 2 Live Moo, Krabby Turtle, Chicago Mike the Shooter, Mr. DM Foss is out there, Miss Vanessa Kitty, Reloading from the Hot Pot, and CB is out there, so welcome everybody in. So we got the pug going on.
He's out of steam. He's lost all of his gas.
I see he's become a new fixture in the gun websites community.
Yeah, it's a good co-host. You guys are always complaining about not having this or that. I got my co-host to complain about. Anytime something goes bad, it's his fault.
Always. Yep. So, I don't know. I know there's not really anything like really going on. I've been trying to keep up with what, the Oregon ballot measure, but it's kind of just sitting idle. I think we're just waiting on the state to decide if they're going to try going forward with the purchase permitting scheme before it heads back into court. But we're sitting with a permanent TRO in place until it actually goes somewhere. Talk a little bit.
So is everybody going to be satisfied or whatever that temporary restraining orders are working for the time being, and that that's going to work in other states? Or should there be some sort of a national level urge or push, or maybe even state level that can be emulated to different states, but some sort of a push to hold politicians responsible for pushing through blatantly unconstitutional stuff, either to prove a point or to gain some kind of weird legacy or to virtue signal or whatever their reasons are? The same way that to stop unnecessary lawsuits, they made people responsible for paying the other person's legal fees, and then it ends the, what do they call that, like the ones that are just set up to annoy people or whatever. Just anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like, is there something to be, are we just gonna like keep going, dang, they shouldn't be able to do this, dang? Like, how many of these states going rogue after the are we?
So we broke up a little bit there. I get what you're saying. Yeah, you know, and I really think we need to start making a bigger push to take away the their immunity from prosecution or anything like that. So that when they start doing this and they're putting these bills together they know are completely unconstitutional, that there's, you know, ways to really put their foot to the fire. And if they realize that, hey, this is going to hit them in the pocketbook, that if it's found unconstitutional, they're going to have to be the ones paying out of their own personal pocket instead of out of the state. So coming out of our tax-paying money, even though it still kind of does come because their wages are taxes. So, you know, there needs to be a bigger push on taking away their immunity. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks that way.
Probably not. Sorry, I stepped away for a quick second, but I think I got the most of what you're saying. But you know, if I got what you were saying or think I understand, you know, from what I think I got from what you were saying, I'd agree with that. You know, there needs. I think things need to change. I know that's a easy way to say it, but
Yeah, and if we took away their immunity from prosecution or from them being able to be held responsible for the bills that they're putting through, I think we'd see a whole bigger change, because you know, anytime you're hitting them in the pocketbook or, you know, putting them to the realization that their freedom can be taken away, I think that would then make them change their, oh, well, let's just go ahead and throw this bill out, even though we know it's unconstitutional, but let them fight it out in the courts. We'll get a good 10 years. You know, I think that would be a way bigger incentive on putting, you know, adding to and helping the 2A out.
yep, I believe it would help save the taxpayer a lot of money. Granted, the pool of people that may want to get into politics may get a little slimmer, but personally, I don't see any problem with that.
I don't know if my internet's working again good now or not.
Yep.
We can hear you.
I was going to say also, I don't think it needs to necessarily be a law that says you got to go to jail or something, but just the idea that if we've got big pipelines to get information around and to sway public opinion, or at least give people options to have opinions about, if we just made it a criteria that we have for a politician, right? Like, hey, don't do this. If you do this, we're going to hold you accountable for it. And again, not necessarily say you're going to have to be criminally liable all the time, unless they do it as like some kind of a habitual thing, maybe. But like a very worse abuses of it or something, that they're doing it just to break the system or something, then to stop that. But maybe just like make it unpopular for politicians. I think then we win, because now we're not changing our system for the people that are abusing it, but just making it unpopular, unnecessary for them, or useless for them to use that strategy. But I don't know. That's easier said than, I don't know how you accomplish that, but it's easy to say, I guess.
I get what you're saying, and I think the only way we go about that is taking away the qualified immunity.
I mean, it effectively, at least it leaves it open so that they can get sued, right? Like right now, they know they can't get sued, that they can do anything they want.
I personally, I think if it's something that's just extreme against, unconstitutional, I think where most people would agree, then and if they want to push it, it's kind of fraud, or I don't know, I can't think of the right word, but it's a waste of money in a sense, and everybody's time, which chokes up the system. So I would be fine with being like personally liable if it's found to be that's the case. You know what I mean? It's clearly, it's not questionable. It's just, we're gonna ban all firearms. Well, that should never even have a chance. You know what I mean? The guy who puts that up is gonna have to pay for all the court cases and all this for it to get thrown out, and everybody's waste of time. And then it would be a lot less likely. Like you gotta have some skin in the game if you're gonna push it. I don't know if that makes sense, but
oh man, what if they just made them pay for the printing? Like going along that, just make them pay for their own printing. Hey, you want to bring up some garbage? You're paying for the Xeroxes. You know what I mean? Like, except they'd probably get Bloomberg to pay for it, but at least the government wouldn't be paying for all the paperwork.
Yeah, anything leading in that direction, because personally, it's kind of I see it as a waste of time and just clogging up the court cases. I mean, there's a lot of cases out there that should be taken and necessarily haven't been, because Supreme Court can make their choice in some cases, but most courts I know of, it's even like evictions, things like that, courts are always backed up. So yeah, it'd be good to weed out the crap, in a sense. So and again, that would save a big percentage of the BS of the issues that we do actually address.
Boss, you got any input on this?
I agree with everyone. I was just watching Mark Smith from the Four Box Diner put out a video on Chicago. I think it was Chicago. He said there was a court ruling in federal court in Illinois that was allowing a specific tax on ammunition and firearms. I think on both it was, which is unconstitutional because it's like a poll tax. It specifically targets a constitutional activity, which is unconstitutional. And he brought up two different Supreme Court cases that covers that. That kind of falls in what we're talking about here, where they're taxing, and if they do their due diligence, it's wholly unconstitutional to do that.
Yep, and we got Burnaby says, if you hold politicians accountable, how are they going to steal the millions of dollars? That's, absolutely, absolutely correct. That's kind of the way they go about that kind of stuff. So
It'd be restricted probably to a lot of that insider trading stuff or knowledge on things that they're allowed to deal with, or their husband or wife owns a company that, invest in it before anybody knows or whatever. Which was another thing, if we're on this topic, I'd like to see dealt with personally. So, I don't think, if you look at the average politician from what I've seen, salaries aren't that big, but yet in 5 years, they're all worth millions of dollars. So that doesn't really work for the average person, that's not doing something illegal usually. I mean, sure, you can have that happen, but it seems more politicians than not are doing quite well, questionably quite well in a lot of cases, with a lot of the foundations, funds, all these other things. So I'd like to see that kind of cut. I think all they should really get is their salary. Like, they shouldn't have any benefits to that, or be able to use any inside information to pass on to family and friends and things like this, and then get a cut of and blah blah blah, because it just kind of muddies the waters. If there's financial incentive, then how do you know they're going to do an honest job? I mean, it's just kind of counterproductive.
Both Congress and the Senate make $174,000 a year.
I could live off that pretty well. Especially with medical covered, a lot of transportation, work-related meals, all that type of stuff. I could make that work.
I could definitely make $174,000 a year work very well. It's kind of like, we're talking, look back at like Pelosi's husband, who, I think he made $100 million on a California contract to put a monorail system in, and there's still no monorail. That was like 10 years ago.
Well, probably lots of examples out there, but even on that aspect, if you look at like the stock market, blah blah blah, whatever, they're shorting the system. They're getting information the average person doesn't have. So one way or another, they're getting us by pay, they're getting us by deals, and they're shorting us, shorten our potential in a sense, if you're into that. So it just seems kind of wrong to me. I don't know. Well, we pay for everything. Basically. Not necessarily everything, but just, as far as work's concerned, which can almost be anything in some cases. Security, a lot of stuff like that. So seems like we're getting shafted. Yeah.
And Jimmy brings out a good point. They get that the rest of their lives. It's not just like, okay, well, while they're in, they get, $174,000. Once they retire, they still get that $174,000 in pension. Plus, they still get all that medical coverage. I think if they want to do like Obamacare for everybody else, I think that they should be stuck with that same stuff. They don't get better coverage unless they want to pay for it out of their own pocket. That's the way I think it should be.
Yeah, I personally think they should be able to buy into whatever the average citizen can. Personally, I don't know. I think that's different than state like military or something like that, where I don't know that the intention. I don't know. I guess I can't really explain it right now, but it just seems different to me in that sense. I don't know. More of your civic duty, I guess you would state, in some sense, but that probably routes back to like a statesman more than a politician.
So, we have David Walcott who's asking, anyone know what kind of sling to use on Magpul hunter stock? So, I mean, I don't know if that's a QD mount or a swivel mount. There's a lot of different slings. I mean, you've got your single point, you got a single point sling. Then you've got, lots of different slings out there. G-Webs could probably list 100 different types of slings that you could use,
Well, I know UB slings, but I only like 2-point slings because I don't like a bunch of trends or whatever. I usually say like think of a police thing, like a SWAT thing. You think of like a SWAT raid force or whatever they're called, like where they're in a stack. And if they want a gun one way, it's going to be different than somebody who's in a helicopter, and that's going to be different than a hunter, and that's going to be different than somebody who's in a boat, and that's going to be different than somebody who's taken a long range shot after they climbed up a mountain, and that's going to be different than somebody who's carrying a heavy gun. So there's different slings for different things. I like my slings to be for improved accuracy and for hunting. So everything else is a second. And what I don't like is single point slings at all. And there's so many of them that are tempting to be a single point or modify into a single point. And I don't see any reason at all for a single point other than specific uses. So although I'm aware of them, I only use 2-point slings. And I bought VTACs back in the day, which are essentially just pieces of nylon with the little thing that's on an Alice pack, the adjustable thing on an Alice pack, because it was made by a guy who took the thing off an Alice pack and put some nylon on it and just continues to make those. So they give no kind of, what's the word, like bunginess, there's no slack. It's, it's nylon. So it's saying like leather. There's no give. Because I want it to be a sling for accuracy so that I can create 3 points of strong connection between my body and the rifle. And that way, if I'm on a stable surface or on sand or against a tree or whatever, the rifle and me are the anchor. And so I'm kind of single purpose with my slings. And I really hate single point slings. So although I know about them, I appreciate it. And I like some of the companies over others. Slings to me are one of those things that I don't have a lot of, I don't have a lot of appreciation for ones that are other than accuracy enhancers. And then if they're going to enhance accuracy, they have to be super rugged.
I'm not sure if this is what he's talking about. When I put in Magpul Hunter stock, this is the stock that comes up. And it has a swivel, looks like for a swivel up front, and then in the stock in the back on the side, the attachment for the sling.
Well, so those circles are QT, quick or QD, quick disconnect swivel mounts also probably. Those holes in the receiver there.
Well, on the bottom is what
yeah.
So, but I'm not sure if this is exactly the one he was talking about.
Yeah, I don't have a preference as far as brand or whatever. Ones I have are, you know, cheap no names I found at the cheapest price for what I was looking for, basically. In most cases, I think I still own more that I've made than I've actually bought. I I'd say get what fits, you know, and what's comfortable. If you're going to use it for hunting, I assume you're going to be carrying it a while. I wouldn't consider a 1 point for hunting. Yeah, and everybody's got their preferences, but I assume you're going to be traveling or you know, sitting at some point, or depending on your hunting style. But if it is something like that, it looks like that gun's got a little bit of weight to it. So if you're looking for comfort, seems to be wider straps tend to help out, or ones that have a flare. But you know, depends what you're into. So
Oh, yeah. Here's a picture in the reviews of somebody with a sling on it. Oops.
Can you zoom in? Oh yeah, there you go.
There we go. So it looks like a swivel up front, and then I don't think he has it attached. I can't tell if it's attached on the back or not in the picture.
He says he wants it for hunting and stuff around the river/delta. So yeah, running a 2-point sling would probably be one of the better choices, because you can, you know, snug that up into your body a lot better than running like a single point.
yeah, for me, a single point's good for like maybe a security detail, something where you're not, you know, moving around. Well, I guess that's not true too, because even in possibly a patrol or something. But you know, definitely not out hunting. Now, if you stalk, if you're like one of them stalker hunters in a sense, or however you say that, then maybe it would be ideal, but not as comfortable. So, I mean, you know, people, I don't know. I haven't used everyone out there, but you know, I don't want to run with a 1 point. You know, not more than a few feet. You know, if I had to or something like that. So, not too
Yeah,
much.
I don't think you can single point this one, but yeah, if you want to get hit in the nuts, the single point's the way to go.
It's definitely going to be at least if you could readjust maybe, and it's going to be, you know, banging into your leg like that. So I don't know, you know, if it's not going to be in your hands 90% of the time, then I wouldn't bother with a single point in most cases myself. But I try to get them, or I've made them so they can be either way, because it just depends what I plan on doing at that time in a sense. So. But like G said, you know, if you're, you know, out there taking shots, obviously it does help you, you know, not just your skeletal structure, but it helps you ridging up, you know, get a little more solid, I guess, if you can kind of use a sling as well. So as far as like wrapping around your arm or you know, people, there's a couple different forms, but everybody's got their own taste. So, but yeah, it could be considered another point of contact to the gun to improve accuracy.
Okay, I just watched a video on this one, and there is M-lock on the bottom, so you can add whatever kind you want. And I think, I don't know if the slots on the side were M-lock also, but
Yeah, that's what I was. I didn't see. I thought that the circles on it were those like for quick attach QD mounts.
Yeah,
that
it
they
says
have this like, swivel where you but those are just
yeah.
or something. They're so those slots are which are that yes.
In the video it says there's optional QD for the buttstock. So you can go with either that. I think that um, section on the back was you could put your sling straight there or QD mount.
And those I do like. They give you the option to take this thing off really fast and have it secure as on without a bunch of fill around and pretty quiet.
Yeah, I like those as well for the same reason, because you may not always want the sling on there, and to have to take time to screw with it, to switch it around, or to change it to a different style. It is a lot easier just hitting a button. So, and I've never had one break, and I've ran around a bit and stuff like that. I've never had one of those connections break. So.
Well, I've
Not
been told that you can get airsoft versions, so just be sure you're buying real, and then they're super strong.
they're pretty good, so I'd recommend them. So I like those myself.
I don't know who invented those or when, but it was sometime after I ever did anything for real, because like those things are super neat and they're super strong.
I'd probably prefer those over the hook style. I know there's a hook style out there too that just kind of clips on almost like a C clip. But that works. It works fine. But if you're dealing with anything with debris or crawling around, those hooks sometimes little catch arm on them can be more delicate than you'd want in some cases. So. Although I haven't had much problems with the actual button, and you think that might be a problem, but I don't know.
I know with QD mounts, they're really nice to have because if you get tangled up in some like debris, if you're out in the woods and get tangled up in a bush or low hanging branches, you can quickly disconnect the rifle to get untangled up, especially like if you slipped and fell. You don't want to be hanging by your rifle.
I just thought about another situation where you get all tangled up if you slip and fall. If you're a 9mm shooter and you get all tangled up in a bunch of man buns and ponytails and stuff, probably use that QD to get out of that situation too.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but yeah.
I can only assume that when 9mm people get together, there's often like man buns get caught in a knot or like get snagged or whatever happens to them.
Well, I'd debate that because people I've shot with and 9mm folks as well, and none of them had any man buns. But I don't think any of them had any CZs either.
Some 9mm shooters wear their man buns on the inside.
That could be a good t-shirt.
Horrible.
They shouldn't have to in 2023. Shouldn't have to. Sorry, didn't mean to derail it with metric.
So Ozzy says I have a single point sling on my Ruger PC 9mm Charger, but it's a short gun. 2-point slings on all full-length rifles.
See, I think of an Uzi and two-point slings on an Uzi. That works for me. I don't need no single points. Because like an Uzi, remember I think of like in the 80s when you'd put an Uzi on, it'd be like carrying around like a briefcase or something, or like a laptop bag. Like you'd have your attachment point up front, your attachment point in back, and you just carried your Uzi like a briefcase or whatever. Like, oh, I need my Uzi. Here it is at my waist. Do the same thing with a MAC-10, really. So
still think 2 points would be cool on little PDWs, even though I don't condone 9mm PDWs.
Mm-hmm. But he likes
It's a
to.
style. It's a style. I'm just saying. It's just, instead of having a thing, you know, like a fulcrum, you're putting them down there and you're picking it up from your hip or whatever.
Guy just wants all the 9mm for himself.
But you would want single point if you have to have two and you're fighting terrorists at the mall.
All right. I'm gonna give you the dual bra brace situation or whatever. Yes, definitely dual. Or no, the dual bra rig. That's what they call it. I don't know if anybody knows what we're talking about.
Probably not.
Red Dawn.
Nope,
No.
This is better. Well, not better. This is different. This is when Cuba invades Florida.
Couldn't flip them out the BB guns off the coast and just shoot all the rafts. Call the sharks in.
Probably. I don't know if you really want to use a BB gun, more maybe a air rifle. You know, those things are probably a little nicer.
Isn't that the deal? Like if you are in the water, you go back to Cuba, but if you're on the beach, you can stay. How annoying would that be if you're like paddling in and somebody wings a BB gun and sinks your shit and you got to go back to Cuba, like within reach of this beach?
I believe they changed the policy where it's no longer if they reach land.
Oh, well, then I guess it's not the same. But you know what I'm saying? That would have been like frustrating as hell. Like, come on, man, give me 6 feet.
There you go. That's what we're talking about.
Who knows what that is? Or what that is from.
Yeah, those people are crazy, man. It's a hell of a journey. You know, you got to time it out all right. You can't just hit the water whenever you want. You know,
because of tides and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if you take a look at it on maps or something or whatever, I mean, if you look at that type of stuff, yeah, you got to time it out just right. I mean, there's certain times of year is better than others. And if you get pulled off a bit, I mean, you know, they're out there with no GPS, no navigation, no nothing. You know what I mean? It's just it's a ballsy move, I'll tell you that much. Even knowing, you know, researching it and you know, picking your best options, it's still kind of risky, you know, on something that's typically homemade or, you know, rigged together. So it's, you know, the oceans aren't really nothing to play around with. You know?
Well, there's some that like strap bleach bottles and a door together. And
yeah, like I was gonna say, they have to put this stuff together on the like they have to hide the whole thing. Like they don't get to just put together a boat and then wheel it out.
Right. Yeah. They'll have to, you know, try to assemble out on their way or whatever. You know, I don't know. Some of the stuff's just crazy. I tell you, yeah, it makes you wonder how many lives are actually really lost in those journeys that you don't hear about. So.
Seriously, there's nobody out there to say, because it doesn't make either side look good, right? Obviously, they're not going to want to talk about how many people are fleeing, and we're not going to want to bring that up because it's horrible to think about. But we got the same situation in the deserts out here. They don't really talk about the people that there's the coyotes or whatever that'll bring people up for money, and it's horrible. It's not a good thing. But then there's people that just try going themselves, and that's, you know, it's not a nice desert, and people often fail in that attempt. I mean, there's nothing that goes out and looks for that. We don't have anything unless a hunter or somebody finds it and says something.
Yeah,
those are just unknown situations.
I seen an article where a family was coming down from Canada, I think, and they were found frozen. I guess, man, woman, and child or whatever, just a couple weeks ago or something like that. So, and sometimes it's the heat, it could be the cold. And I think that's people screw up with deserts. Everybody just assumes the desert's hot, but, obviously.
Yeah, night, it's the opposite. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So start throwing all your shit away in the day, and then night comes and you got a problem, So, and hydration. So, I mean, it's a lot of risk. I don't think people really understand before they get into these situations in some senses. So, it's definitely pretty crazy.
So I took little dude out, and he did everything he's supposed to do outside. Let's say the whole buffet of what happens outside. So now he's trying to convince me that he needs a refill, that he needs to eat, and I don't think he needs to eat until later. Should I eat him, or should I not eat him? Should I feed him, or should I wait till later? I'm getting harassed for being fed right now.
I don't know.
How is he? Can you leave food out, or will he just eat every
No,
time there's food?
Mello was like that. I've always had dogs where I could just leave food out and then they eat it when they feel like it, and then I put some more out there eventually. This dude is super food driven. Like, all he does if I let him down is look for the piece of food that fell down one time, or maybe there's a piece of food that got let down, and then he'll just eat things that might look like pieces of food. So he's super food driven. So yeah, he'll eat.
Yeah, I wouldn't feed him. That's one thing one of two things that always really annoy me when I see them is fat pets and fat kids.
Oh, yeah, and that's the thing is that I took him to the 2A rally. We can talk about the 2A rally. If you want. Took him to the 2A rally, and that's the first time he ever met a pug, and it was the fattest watermelon-looking dog I've ever seen. And then a bunch of ladies came up and were like, "Oh, I got pugs," and blah blah blah. And then they were just giving me advice, and I was asking them advice, and they all said 3/4 a cup twice a day, which is less than I'm feeding them. So that's where I'm like, maybe I should start feeding them even less.
Yeah, we used to have a beagle, and he would eat there was one time I was pouring a bag of food into a container, and I couldn't see him sitting on the other side of the bag, and he was eating the food as I was pouring it into the container. And people were shocked that I didn't have a fat beagle because they are food driven like that. He would eat.
Sorry, buddy. You're waiting. And the thing is, he'll bug me like this, and then if I don't feed him, he'll just go to sleep. He just cares really bad right now.
Yeah. Whole kid packing, I think, it's the owner's or parents' responsibility. Saying no is part of parenting. So, basically, I think that's a big deal. And then if you have anybody, in your family or something and say something like that, the first thing they do is, blame you for body shaming or, picking on them or something, which is, I think, ridiculous because, you're trying to help them. I don't know. You're hoping that, let them know if somebody knows, you know what I mean, in a sense. But, yeah, it's a shame to see, these little kids, 8-year-olds, 200 plus pounds and this and that, and big bone my ass. That's all I'm gonna say. Not when all they do is eat and sit on their ass. So I'm gonna state, I don't know. It's all in parenting, I guess, but I force my kids to be active. And as far as like trouble is concerned, like if you got grounded, depending on the situation, you might be able to get out of it by doing some PT, which was like push-ups, sit-ups, laps around the house. My little girls were pushing out like 100 push-ups, like nothing. They were putting people to shame. It was crazy. So, and that habit's kind of kicked on. It didn't stick with all of them, but some of them it did. So, but it's way easier to make good habits and try to correct bad habits. And kids pick up so much at a young age. I don't think average people realize it. All the jokes, all this and that, but they pick all that up from a young age. So, yeah, in a sense of like program them right. It's a lot easier to do that than go back and fix bugs later.
So let's talk about the AZ2A rally that happened. What was it, last Saturday?
Yeah, last Saturday.
How did it go down? Were you impressed?
This was their 10th annual one, and it's put on by a motorcycle club, bunch of bike riders, and then like not a outlaw motorcycle club, just probably a bunch of guys from Vietnam or something, but people that own Harleys and that join together and go in parades and stuff. So this is an event that they put on, and then it gets helped out by Cheryl Todd from Gun Freedom Radio, and they bring in speakers, and it's Tony Simon called it a festival. I think that's the best word for it. It's not huge, and it's not really a carnival or nothing, but they do have some games and things, like I don't know what they're all called, but like where you have a piece of wood with holes in it and you throw sandbag or bean bags at it, or you got like the giant Jenga, whatever. Like they just have like these kind of things to entertain the kids, so that there's a reason to bring kids and the kids can be entertained, or else have something to meet each other. I don't know what happens. And then there's like a place for kids or whatever. Then there's like a bunch of food trucks, right? So there's different kinds of food and a whole bunch of it. And I don't really know if it's like, I know one of the food trucks is gun themed, like they have a bunch of gun marketing stuff all over it, and it's all their menu items are gun related, but they're like that 100% of the time. But I don't know if the other ones are necessarily like people that are pro 2A, or if they're just available to be food trucks. But either way, there's a bunch of food trucks, and then there's pop-up tents. So I guess kind of like what you'd get at a gun show, but instead of being like, well, there was some gun shops actually. There'd be some gun shops, but then like your Arizona Republican Party, Arizona Libertarian Party, other different parties that are freedom-based. Then there were some like the NRA and the ILA kind of booth. The GOA has a booth. Our state level organization, the Arizona Citizens Defense League, had a booth. And then some other things, I forgot who they're called. The I always call them little Republicans, but they're not. But some other kind of very Republican-ish type of public or political group that there's a few of to I don't know what they're doing. I suspect they're not happy with the Republican Party, so they're pushing it in a direction or something. So there's those kind of political types of things there. And then the speakers. And I think Cheryl said she had 30 speakers lined up this time, which I thought was going to be super ambitious. And it turned out to actually be really cool because of the way that it just went down. The speaker, whatever stadium, or what do you call it? The platform, whatever it's called, the place with the speakers and everything, where the speaker, the human was with all the speakers around them, was right in the middle instead of being kind of at the end, so that the whole place could hear. And everybody showed up to listen this year instead of showing up to stand there. So last year, the other years, people would show up and just kind of stand around, and some people were listening to the speakers. And this year, everybody was there to listen to the speakers, and that part was pretty interesting. So it was it was like 4 hours long, and the whole time it was speakers doing their thing. And I mean, I'm not going to say 4 hours of it was edge of your seat, but there was certainly some good stuff, really good stuff, and then there was some decent stuff. And then I would say the people that attended it, it's hard to say the number because of the way that it filled up like a park this time instead of just a big field. In prior years, it was just a big rectangle field that they would set up all the stuff around the perimeter, and you could pretty easily count the people there because you just look and you could see everybody. There was just like one or two trees in the middle of the place, but otherwise you could just kind of see everybody. This year, it was like in the paths all around a park and around trees and memorials and monuments and stuff. So it was really hard to say how many people showed up. But the people were diverse in age and type of gun person or type of shooter and type of Arizonan, I guess. Rich people, poor people, young, old, all the different things you can think of to separate people. So really interesting. And then like most people were listening. Most people were, in prior years, it seems like there are people that were showing up in big groups, and because you're just all standing in a big field, the groups would stay together. So this group would stand here looking at that group, and that group would stand over there looking at the both of them. And then some people are in the middle going, there's like 3 or 4 different groups of people here, and I'm not one of them. I'm just standing here and, what's up with these groups of people? Well, this year it was more like 2 or 3 people standing next to each other that, maybe had the same, like maybe they were all carrying a revolver, or maybe these people are wearing military stuff, or these people are worried about Trump, or those people have something about, we live on the border. So there's issues with individuals who've had issues, either in jail or, pending lawsuits and stuff due to the border issues. So there's people with like signs and stuff to be aware of, whatever specific situation. So those people, might be standing together, but they were all standing together and listening to the people speak, and in between times, like kind of mingling. So I thought it was a good event because it was good in relation to, or like in comparison to the past years, but it was also just a good event. Like, this is the way I wish I don't know if this was the perfect rally, but it was certainly one of the better rallies. I'm trying to think. The big one in DC was unique, right? But aside from that, this might be one of the best rallies I've been to, just in the respect of like getting people to actually hang out together and then listen to the same stuff that's, broad. It wasn't just our property, our rights, and yeah, or like Trump is good and the Democrats bad, rah, 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 which sometimes the rallies are. And when that happens, everybody just stands there looking at each other like, yeah. And nothing gets accomplished. But at this time, if somebody's talking about, for example, the use of firearms therapy for people with either musculature or, like physical issues, physical health issues, or I don't want to say like mental health, like therapy type of thing. Like there's the physical therapy of shooting, and then there's the mental therapy of shooting. And when that gets brought up in multiple speeches, and multiple different types of gun people in Arizona are standing there listening to that, and they look around and see who's hearing that for the first time, and who's heard that before, and they understand, like that kind of stuff is hard to measure, but that certainly happened this time. In the past, it's hard to think that any of that even happened. And this time it was like not measurable, but you could certainly tell that it was happening. Like people were aware of each other, and it was a better environment than if it would have been like seating or something. Because when they're seating, everybody picks a seat, sits down, and they don't know anything except for who's sitting in front of them, maybe if they pay attention to the people sitting in front of them. But the way this was sort of, I don't know if anybody saw the aerial stuff from the drones that they took some videos, like the way that people were kind of distributed and walking around, and it lent itself to mingling around. That's what happened. People were mingling. People were chatting with each other. Oh, what does your sign say? Like, oh, why do you just have that? Oh, I didn't know about this. Like, yeah, I'll sign that petition. Like that kind of stuff was happening. And I think that's the best value we can get out of a rally, is when the people in the state who come together meet each other. Because when they go home and talk to the people who they represent, if somebody goes to the rally, they're like me. They're talking to 10 or 15 people who didn't go to the rally. But if they can talk about, hey, did you know that there's a guy who has Parkinson's, and he's able to use a single point sling to, sign his name on a check, and then he carries around a single point sling, and now he's an advocate, because when people ask him, hey, how come you got a rifle sling on? He can say, so I can shine my check better. It's a pretty cool device. And plus, when I go shooting, it's therapy for me. Like, he's normalizing the concept of, firearms being therapy, and normalizing the idea that firearms aren't always weapons or violence. And now that, a whole bunch of people know that, they can take that back to their hunting or their cops or their whatever they might be, right? And now they have that, potentially, they have that awareness. So, I don't know. I'll keep going probably, but it was pretty cool.
Now, did you get any aerial footage from your drone?
Well, no, my drone, Pink gave me his drone a long time ago, a year ago or whatever. Thanks for that. And I was using it and learning it. And the problem is my phone was not good. It was like an old phone. And you use a phone to look through the drone and to command the drone, I guess. So I was using a phone with an old operating system, and it wasn't the current one. It wasn't even a working one. It worked, but it didn't work for the drone. And then I brought it over to my friend's house, and for sake of argument, my friend lived a mile away from this restaurant. So I went over to my friend's house and said, hey, can I use your phone to hook up to the drone and maybe see if it works? And then he hooked it up and it worked. And I was like, okay, good. This proved the theory that the phone I'm using is too old for this drone. Okay. So then I tell people, okay, somebody's going to send me a phone so I can try it with whatever. So the next day or something, I'm over at this restaurant that's a mile away from my friend's house. And I'm like, I'm going to run the drone up in the air and take a video of the sunrise, which was coming up over the highway in this restaurant. And, you know, I'm just trying to practice using the drone. Well, I think what happened was I put the drone up in the air and it essentially just immediately drove head on into the sign, this big ass sign. And it landed on the roof of this gas station. So it was like a comedy. Like I turned the thing on and it's listening to me. I always would make sure it listened to me in public before I just went somewhere with it. You know, I'd make sure that it was listening to my controllers. And I turned it on. And it was listening to my controllers. I went up, and as soon as it got to about 10 feet, it's like, I'm not listening to this controller anymore. And it just took off. And it went up to about 30 feet, or I don't know, up in the air. And then it just hauled ass. And at the time, I was like, hey, what's going on? And I'm trying to get control of it again. And I didn't have control of it anymore. At the time, I figured out that I wasn't going to get control of it. Bam, it hit the sign like as fast as it could possibly go. It hit the sign. And then it hit the sign so fast or so hard that it like broke it and it fell down on top of the roof of this gas station. So I'm like, dang it. And this is like a gas station for semi trucks. So it's on the roof of the gas station part for the semi trucks, which is way the heck up in the air, right? And it's made out of like tin foil. So it's not like I'm walking up there to get this drone at any time. So I think what happened is it was still attached to my friend's phone a mile away. And it said, oh, I'm going to go home, because I essentially turned it on at my friend's house and brought it up in the air and put it back down. And I think what happened is the drone said, oh, I don't want to be connected to this guy's phone. I'm going to go get connected to that other phone I like that's a mile away. And it tried to go over there and it hit that sign. Either way, I don't know what happened. So my drone's dead. I ended up getting it off the roof and it's all broken. So anyway, I don't have a drone. The other part is I didn't think it's legal to drive a drone around up there. Evidently, it either is or isn't, but this guy got drone footage. So there is drone footage, but I wouldn't have had the balls, even if I had a drone, to fly it around. There's police up on the roof of the buildings next door because the thing happens at the Capitol. And I suppose they're just being precautious or whatever in case something goes down. You know, they got snipers and people up on top of the roof, and they have a drone, the police drone. Well, I'm assuming the Capitol Police of Arizona drone. So their drone is like big, like really big, professional movie type of drone, what you'd imagine the police have. So that's like R2-D2 floating around up there. And they've took it up and flew it around a few times. I got footage from my phone taking a video of their drone, which you could probably see pretty good because it's so big. But they just used it to, I'm assuming they were just practicing with it just for the sake of it because there was nothing going on. But they did fly it a few times.
What about doing a FOIA request and getting the footage from the Capitol drone?
That's a good idea. I don't know. I don't know if you can do that for video. Imagine, why wouldn't they, right?
Yeah, you can do a FOIA request for video because you can get body cam video anytime you want.
No, you can't. They tell you can. In some places you can. But I can tell you firsthand experience, oh, hell no. They'll say you can see the police chief and explain it to him, and then you can go talk to them, and they'll tell you, no, it'll come out in Discovery if it comes out, basically. So don't count on getting body cam footage. Hopefully it works out good for you. I actually just went through this with a friend, his kid in school, and an altercation that happened, and he was under the impression that, it's public record. Of course I can. And they didn't give him shit either. So it's can be discretional if you're going to get it. And if there's any kind of pending case, they may try to, have you basically pull it out through Discovery. Your attorney would be able to request it at that time. But don't count on them giving you any footage. So they might, especially if nothing happened, then there's a decent possibility. But if there's anything in question with the police department or anything, or school system, don't hold your breath.
Seems to really depend on location. Not not all departments and not all cities, not all states are as open as other ones are.
Yeah. On here, I can get a report on anybody, for like 25 cents a page, as far as criminal record, all that type of stuff. Obviously, when you're, depending where you are, you may have to hit 2-3 towns to get somebody's full information, because they don't give you everything out of one department in a sense. But when it comes to video is always a freaking nightmare, at least in my area. Like, it doesn't matter if it's just a regular traffic stop and, nothing serious happened. Like, they're not giving it to you here.
Oh, snap.
And it would be a good test of your local department to see if they would give it to you. There might be a fee. Everybody does things different. Like, even here, like pages, like, the worst thing's finding out, your ex had like 60 pages and you're dropping $30 down there or something if you're going to court or whatever. But, there's might be like a printout cost or something, or, you'll have to bring a flash drive or something will have to be provided or something like that. So keep that in mind if you do go to request it. But in theory, they should give it to you, but in practice, not so much sometimes. So would be a good test of your local department, though.
Well, hopefully G-Webs can get the footage.
You're talking
Yeah.
about, well, I can show you the Instagram channel.
Okay.
I mean, I could show you the footage of the guy who went there and took his own footage, you know what I'm saying? But I don't have I don't know. I guess I could try to find out about it. It doesn't cost nothing to do Freedom of Information, right?
It depends. Typically, no. If, like I said, for video, I wouldn't think so, as long as you have a flash drive to transfer. But some places have weird things, So, I've heard places where it doesn't cost anything to get a report printed off. Locally, it costs $0.25 a page. So, it may vary slightly, but I wouldn't think shouldn't be anything ridiculous.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I think when Crump did his explanation of it, he was saying that if you do it as a media request, then you can put a price on there because you have to, I think. But then if you put a media request, that they'll usually void, or what do they call that? Not pay attention to the cost. I guess.
Yeah, there's YouTube channels that's all they are, police footage, and the really good ones will, if there's an incident, they'll stitch together multiple body cams, so it's like cops, but they're just using body cam footage.
Is there a way to make Instagram the whole page? Oh yeah. Now, is there a way to fast forward? I don't know where it is in the film. I think it'll just repeat. But this gives you an idea. That's the speaker stage. That's Ursula from here in Arizona. And then that's the cops up on the roof. There was another building behind this one. And if he would have showed you that one, that's where they had their drone. But this was just snipers, I guess. Anyway, so this is coming down the speaker areas to the right there. This is coming towards the snipers are up there on the roof on top in front of us there. And then there's the other snipers, and that's where the drone was. So this is coming across the stage, and then the park and stuff is to the right. So you see what I mean? It's very difficult to see how many people are actually here. If you freeze, I don't know how to make it pause. Oh, I guess I can. If I pause it, okay, so this is, boom. So there's the speakers. There's the Arizona State, whatever you call it, Capitol. We have a big copper roof on it. Normally, we're in that big lawn over there where you can see nothing happening. You can see my mouse? That big lawn over there is where it normally is. So now I think it's in a much better location across the street here in this park. Now, this is the food area. And like I was saying, this whole section of the grass is like games for the kids to play. So if you have like little kids that could care less, they got something to do. And then they're playing with each other, I think. Like the kids are all having fun. I don't know if it was like arranged or what. Now, I don't think you can see it.
This is the officer's footage.
This is what? Oh, no. I don't have their footage. This is some guy who just flew his drone around, I think. But he's a company, so I don't know if he had the permission or not. But I know when I looked into it, I couldn't get permission.
Yeah, I would
This
think,
over-
especially flying as low, like going through people's tents and stuff.
you can't do that. Yeah.
Pretty
You
low.
can't- as a licensed pilot, you can't fly over people unless you have their permission. So I guess technically we all gave him his permission, but you know what I mean? Nobody gave him his like, I don't know what's going on. But there's my van over there. That's where I'm parked. So normally these are parking lots. Like that's a parking lot over there, and this is a parking lot over on the other side. This circle in the center is the center of the park. That flag over there is the east end. These buildings are Phoenix out in the distance. That's the downtown Phoenix. And you can barely tell under the flag where my mouse is wiggling. Those are the guns from the Arizona. I think they're from the Missouri, but they're the same guns as that are on the Arizona. So that's like from the Arizona Memorial, essentially. This is the World War II Memorial, and then each of these pie-shaped things going around the center is a different campaign that Arizona people, and this is a list of all the people in Arizona who died at each of these campaigns throughout time, because we've got the Indian Wars and that kind of stuff out here too. And then the center part is the center of this memorial, right? And last year, like I was saying, we're behind us is the Capitol and that field that we were in last year. Last year, some people set up in the middle of this thing, which I thought was very disrespectful. They set up in the middle of this thing and had a separate rally, and they were like 3%er people. And I don't know if they were real or if they were like a fake ass, let's set up optics, I don't know what to call that, like fake flag type of thing. But it was a weird little situation, and I definitely didn't like it. And this year it couldn't happen because one, the police were making sure nobody set up anywhere around here. So I don't know if there was something that happened last year. And plus we're over here, like they couldn't set up because last year there was enough buffer that they were set up over here and nobody did anything about it because nobody knew about it except for the people that, happened to be parked over here and walked past them or whatever. Anyway, little side note, I thought this was a better layout so that it I didn't say we take over the whole park. We took over this chunk of the park, and that technically is a few memorials, but all the rest of the memorials are still there. And technically anybody who wanted to, and I kept going back to the van, right? My van's way over here. So I would walk back and forth to get the dog water and stuff. And that would also give me a chance to come back to the event and see it from regular people's point of view, like what we looked like or what we sounded like. And we weren't like a rah, 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 yay, rah, 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 yay. Like like when the Trump thing was here, it was all rah, 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 yay, that kind of a rally. So it wasn't none of that. And plus anybody who wanted to just show up and see these memorials could do so without even being affected by us, other than these two tents, which I think should have been pushed over into the walkway a little bit so that somebody could literally go the entire Arizona Memorial and not even know we were there. But except for walking around these two tents, they could have gone to the whole rally. And there was definitely people the whole time we're there that had nothing to do with us that are just there to see these memorials. Because, Arizona's been in a lot of campaigns. Well, every state has. Anyway, that's the park we were in. And then you can see it comes around, and these are like the NRA and the Libertarian and the I forget. There's a couple of businesses and then like a radio show, but it was mostly like political groups and stuff like that. And then this would be coming up from behind, like from the state capitol, past the speakers. This first tent is like some podcasts and some TV shows here in Arizona set up cameras and recorded the whole thing. And then you get a bunch of old people standing here who needed chairs or, just whatever, are in wheelchairs or needed a chair and just sat up front so they could hear or see. And then there's like another wave of people on these little grassy knolls over here. But like I'm saying, like then these walkways were still open, and every once in a while, everyone would stop and listen to a speaker. But for the most part, this created this, like all these pathways. People didn't set up and sit on the pathways. So they created this like flow through the people that were sitting. It was just such a great like scenario. And then all these people that are standing around, this is one of the booths that it's a gun shop that sponsored the event. So people were over here saying like, oh, I didn't know you were a gun shop or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for sponsoring the event. And then if somebody would say something in the rally, they could turn over. It was just very conducive to people being able to multitask and just be in the whole event. This is all the ladies of the Arizona DC project. And then I guess this is probably the beginning of it again. So I'll just let it go and give you a chance to see the thing without me stopping it. And then this was the weather we had. So sorry about that if you're not having good weather right now. A couple of people came from out of state, so at least we were able to host visitors with some decent weather this year. I mean, it's always decent weather this time of year, so, but at least we were able to share our decent weather this year.
Say it doesn't look bad to me. Most people are in sweatshirts or jackets.
In
Bearable.
Arizona, this is cold, but for everybody else, you would have liked it. It's a little windy for us. I wore a sweatshirt when I first got here.
What was the temperature? Any idea?
Nah, I don't really pay attention. I just look and see if it's going to rain or not, and I just bring a windbreaker. A windbreaker is enough. You either take it off or it's enough type of thing. I think this is the whole video. So that's pretty much the whole thing. I'm pretty sure. Well, I'm glad the guy did it. I don't care one way or the other. If he got a permit to do it, awesome. And if some other thing happened, I'm glad he got the footage. That's all I'm saying.
I just assume he probably at least spoke to them or something or asked, because it doesn't seem like anybody's panicked or anything. Not that people necessarily should be, but he's flying pretty low.
Exactly.
Up on people.
And you can see all the police. Well, maybe you can. The police are on bicycles at this event. So like bicycles, pedal bicycles. So if I were to pause at almost any of these and you looked for a second, like the police are just standing all around. So sometimes it's because they're listening and other times it's because they're talking to somebody. There was a guy over here who showed up and was being weird, and they ended up kind of talking to him for a while. And that's actually, you see it as they pan over here. But aside from that, the police were watching this thing 100%. And it goes up and buzzes them in the top of the snipers. If anybody was going to complain, it would have been the snipers. And they would have just either zapped it or shot it or something. You know what I mean? If they really didn't want it up there. Or they could have taken their drone and flown over the top of this drone, and it would have pushed this drone into the ground. Like their drone is huge. There was like a helicopter compared to this. Or they probably could have just chopped the shit out of this with theirs. I bet you theirs would have just mowed through this one if they wanted. But either way, they didn't care. And you could
say didn't ask or mention or say anything, and he's flying through here like this and loses connection and hits somebody. People are going to be pissed. Yeah,
they're going to sue him. Yeah, he's in trouble.
Flying in through people's tent. If the wind just hit right or some kid ran by, like it would be.
Look at these flags. It was super windy, and he's flying all around trees and stuff. But yeah.
So no. More than likely, it wasn't an issue. Like they probably knew. I'm guessing because I don't think somebody that just showed up would be that ballsy. Maybe.
No, the guy that's flying the drone was the guy who's covering it. He's paid to cover the event, so he's official for sure.
Total sense, yeah. I've got a drone. I've messed with a few in the past, and I know they can be tricky. They got to be like resynchronized all the time. There's a big difference in the quality and how some of them work. With good service, you can fly like anybody almost can fly them and avoid obstacles through things no problem, because it actually helps you along with some of them. I mean, I'm sure you probably know, G. But
they didn't have that. But yeah, they have like radar and stuff. But here's the thing. This seems like he's hauling ass. In reality, I watch this thing all the time. He was going very slow. So he just sped up the video to make it seem like he's hauling ass. But even then, like there's a lot of wind. He could have easily, then I think it's one of these where he goes up over those trees. He's got more balls than me. I would have got stuck in these trees for sure.
So I'm saying like a gust. So the guy's probably pretty good and has a decent drone, but you wouldn't want to just buy one, take it off the shelf, go to the park and try to do that, and expect it to go good, in my opinion. Like you're saying with the phone connections and the links, a lot of them run off the phones. The one I have runs off the phone. And I can tell you it's night and day whether I'm in a surface area where I have good reception or not. Because with not, I got an auto control and it's all me, and it ain't pretty like that. Because when the wind gusts, you're controlling or trying to counter. It doesn't do it automatically for you. You go swinging down by some trees and you don't see a branch, you're hitting it. But in a good service area, it has all those protections kind of built in with it. So pretty cool stuff, though. Definitely. I wish I see that as expendable money because there's a good chance I'm going to toast it. So I don't spend a lot on them, and not personally. So, but I definitely like to. But they got the technology keeps getting better and better.
Yep.
Yep.
I can't. I'm debating because of that one's busted now, and it's they're essentially that one is probably 300, 350 ish to replace, and it's somewhere between professional and toy one, but it's it's capable for sure. It's just that it's got less expensive chunks on it than the super professional ones, like the sensors and the things. So it's less expensive than the $1,000 plus ones. So I don't have no $1,000. So I'm not getting $1,000 one. And to replace a $300 one, as much as I want to fly them again, I don't have time to edit. I didn't have time to edit the video before, and it's not like I'm doing a drone channel or nothing. But to enhance, like going to an event like this, and for me, I'd just like to be able to pop it up, get a couple of still pictures, maybe go up and down just to kind of document it. I'm not interested in going too nuts like this guy's being real creative and stuff, but just to archive, just to keep an aerial view picture. I would thought it'd been awesome to have that as just a thing. And for when I go like travel and I want to get like pictures of gun shops and stuff, I just want to be able to go up in the parking lot, go up, take a still picture or two, come down, maybe go up, take a panoramic view or something, and then come down. Not a lot of stunts or anything, but I guess what I'm saying is I'm waiting now because I feel like there should be an open source or a DIY or like you know what I mean, like a 80% drone by now. Like, why do I have to buy one complete from some country? Why can't I just buy the guts and then 3D print whatever body I want? Or why can't I buy a skeleton and buy some components just like I do a laptop, any kind of computer? You just buy a board and you buy the parts. Why can't I buy a drone that way and then have some kind of open source software in it that does all the GPS and does all the flying for me, but doesn't send all the data to Japan, or not Japan, but China or whatever, right? Like I don't know where that is, and I haven't had time to research it. Maybe that does exist. But anyway, that's what I kind of want to do. I want to build my own and have it just be the parts I put in it, period.
Trying to think of the app I gotta use, but I don't like that aspect of it either. That you gotta, like with mine, I had to download an app and I gotta run it through that. And like I said, it's like it turns your phone into a controller or whatever. And it does. I don't know what exactly it relates to. You don't have a choice. Like you have to download the apps in order to use it. So, and it is some
Exactly.
stuff that like if you've seen it in a text message asking you for money, you would think it's a scam. That's what it looks like. You know what I mean? But it runs all right, but it makes you wonder where the hell does that stuff go? And so for that reason, I do the same thing you do. I run it on a phone that's not even active anymore, but it still works and picks up service. So it works fine because it's not that old in a sense, but I still, information still technically being pulled. So I would love to know, more about it. But like I said, you don't have a choice when with
Well, even if they were like, hey, we want to know exactly what it's like over there, but we can't send balloons over. All they got to do is like send over all these drones, and every single drone is sending it data about what our terrain is like. You know what I mean? Even if it's not like, what do you call it? Intel. It is Intel, right? Overall. And they could be putting together some giant 3D model of the whole freaking country with all the drones we got over here.
Well, whatever they're doing is cutting power from you, and is with a drone that's a big deal.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, cut power and attention and processing. Yeah, it's just diverting resources to shit that we don't need.
It's robbed on your own stuff or whatever it is, whether it's sales purposes, whatever they want to call it. It's still, you only got so much time, and people say, well, just throw another battery. Yeah, you can, but when you add more weight, what happens? Your flight time gets diminished too. So, I mean, I can't think of it. There's like a scale to that kind of, I guess, and depending what range you're in, as far as professional, semi, or the toys in a sense. But everything's got a cost, so, pro and con. So basically, they're shorting you out of your life kind of in a way too. So I don't know. I would think so, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about the drones. I would love to get one and play with, but yeah, they're a little more expensive than I'd be willing to pay to destroy in 3 weeks.
I ended up at Wanamaker one year. We were, I think it was one year I had a table. Like I bought a table. I don't think it was a gun channels table. I think it was when the reason that we got the idea for a gun channels table is I bought a table one year and I was like, this was a waste of time, but it worked for everybody who was at gun channels because you had a place to put your stuff. So I'm like, I don't need to buy a table anymore because I don't, my bayonets weren't selling at Wanamaker's. So no need for me to buy a table, but it'd be nice to have a table. Anyhow, the guy across the table or across the aisle from us was selling toys, essentially, like all the different kinds of versions, but the most expensive one was like $100, but a couple of them had cameras on it. I ended up buying one for like, let's say, maybe it was an $80 one and he sold it to me for like 50. And then Clover, I think, bought, let's say, a $200 one for 100 or something. Like it was a good enough deal that we were like, okay, yeah, it's worth trying. Even if it's a rip off, like, at least I'm trying to see what it's like. And for me, at least, I don't know what Clover, I think he didn't use his as much, but that was a toy. Like it was $50 or whatever. Like say it was, and this was years and years ago. So it was definitely a toy. But what it did do is just show me that it's nothing like the toys that I had before where, or no, what happened is it was like the toys I had before where if you get a toy version of one of these things, it doesn't just stay in one spot in space, like in 3-dimensional space. You've got to keep it there. So you're constantly bumping the power, let's say, or you're adjusting the left or right. Like you're constantly bumping and adjusting. And what you end up is getting used to constantly monitoring the controllers, the little wiggly things to like keep your drone in a place. And then when you want to go forward, you just push that one direction a little bit harder, but you're always wiggling all these controllers. So then the first time I used the one that Pink gave me, the real one, I was like, what is this, magic? Because you could just, as soon as you stopped touching the controllers, it just stayed exactly where it was. And that's the part where you think, like, if you've used any other kind of remote control thing before, you think you got to have some skill. Like I got to know what I'm doing, or I got to get coordinated, or I have to figure it out. In order to get good, there's going to be a learning curve. But with the drones that are good, like the whatever you call like the level now where they have the GPS in them, I guess. Like essentially, if you say I want it to go up, you just wiggle the controller up and it goes up. If you say I want it to go that way, you push the controller that way and it goes that way. And then when you stop pushing the controller, it just stops right there. And then somebody said in there, like when the battery goes low, it just stops listening to you and goes back where it came from, which is where you started it from. So as long as you didn't start it in a garage and then close the garage or something, like it's just the worst thing that happens is it just stops listening to you and goes back where you started. So as far as being like on autopilot and being easy to use, I'd recommend getting one. Like if you've got the money to spend, they're just so neat. And I've only barely played with them, but of all the cameras I've played with, here's what I'm saying. I'm saying a drone is a must have. Like you got to have a phone with a camera in it. And then it's probably a must have at some point to have a dash cam, I think, because you can get a lot of fun and a lot of use out of a dash cam. But I think a drone is your second camera. Like I would say having a camera you can play with like that, even if it's just to find out that you're not into it, at least you know that you're not into it, because if you're into it, you're going to love drones. Like drones are the most fun I've had with a camera, I think, is my drone. if I was retired and just could sit around doing nothing, I'd be playing with a drone all the time. It's just a lot of fun to not just be able to play with a toy that goes in 3 dimensions, but then you get a video from it. It's just super fun. And the way that you can play with that, coming up over a tree into a sunrise and stuff, it's just such neat video you can make with it. So I guess I'm trying to sell people drones. If you're thinking about it, try it.
There's
Worst, oh, I hate this thing. And then you give it to some kid and make their day. You know what I mean? Like give it to some cousin or nephew or somebody or kid, just give it to somebody else if you hate it.
depending on some of them, and depending on what price range you're looking at and location where you are, at least around here, there's hobby shops and drones are a big thing there as far as getting extra parts and things like that once you have a chassis or something already set up. But it's definitely starting to be a big hobby item, and they are fun to play with. And there's different styles. I mean, it can be a little tense, don't get me wrong, because especially drop a bunch of money. But if you do have a decent one like that, like almost like he was stating, they pretty much, if you just stop or get distracted, it's not just going to instantly crash in a sense. You can stand in one spot, start it from your hand, and automatically return it to your hand in a lot of cases. So they're pretty cool. There was one out. I seen an ad. I never tracked it down yet, but little thing that'll like fit in your pocket, almost like the size of a deck of cards. It's completely solid like that. It's a trying to think of the word, quadrocopter or whatever I think it is. So it's within that frame size. So basically, sliding it in your pocket's not going to hurt it. Pre-program it. You can hit it up for people that are into like photos, group photos, all that type of stuff. All you do is pull it out your pocket, hit the button, and it'll pop up from your hand, go out to a pre-program 10 feet, whatever distance, and get a shot of your group or whatever you're doing, and then automatically return right back to your hand. So you can program them to do a few different things. So, I mean, even something like that, you're not even really flying it. It's just doing a job for you. So in some cases, they're pretty cool. And I think we'll probably see more as time goes on, with that being more of a common thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. But that would be awesome though. Have one that you just put in your pocket.
Yeah. I mean, again, I can't verify it. Might be one of them.
I've seen it. I've seen one like you're talking about. I don't know if it was a prototype or if it was already out, but I've seen that before. Thing is, they're pretty much all going to work for you. I mean, they're all going to be amazing magic. The best ones do movie quality video and can do some, I don't know, they can fly longer, I guess, maybe a little bit farther away or something. But essentially, the cheapest one is got everything the big one can do. The big ones are just going to be better cameras and maybe fly a little bit longer. But it's not like you're sacrificing anything hardly with the whatever they call a low end one nowadays, especially from DJI.
I think, on the low end, you probably sacrifice flight time, I would think.
Yeah, that's about it. Battery. But the thing is, you get, what's the word? Like into action, like the little ones. They're not quite like what you're talking about. Because the one I'm talking about, or the one I think I've seen that you're talking about, you just either push a button and it opens, or you don't even have to open it. Like it just flies. And then these, you have to still wiggle the arms out, and you still have to put a battery in it. So it takes you a minute to get them into action. So the little guys are faster. You can almost take it out of your pouch, put it together and fly it. And that's one of the reasons I like the little one I've got, because the larger ones, I guess they're technically the same. It's just that, you're probably going to spend a little more time taking $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 out and flying it than $300 out and flying it.
So this DJI Mini 3 Pro is under 249 grams. But it says its battery life is 34 to 47 minutes max flight time, depending on the battery. And then if you look at the 895 gram, it's like 46, but it's got dual cameras.
Well, the main difference on that big one is that the sensor, the part that the brain of the camera is 4 times the size, or 5, 6. I don't know how the numbers work, but it's a movie quality. So you're really paying for the camera in that big one and what the camera can record. So if you look at a sunrise with the little guy, it's going to be really light and dark. It's going to be kind of washed out. And then you look at the same sunrise with the big guy, and it'll be all the different versions of color, like in a nice movie. So it just collects tons more data than the little ones.
The thing to look at is the camera itself. Like, is it left, right, and up and down? Because that helps. Some of those are basically just kind of up and down, or they don't even have any. Like, you got to manually put it where you want and try to fly and fit it in the spot. When you get the cheaper one,
the ones that have the circles on top, that's the radars. The little eyeball looking things are the radars, and those are designed. Just because I've watched enough DJI videos, I can tell you those are designed so that they sit looking up a little bit. Because, like what you're saying, you can move the what's that called, the camera, not bezel. What's it called? Whatever the I can't think of the name of the little thing that the camera's mounted in, but you can move it up and down. But what happens is if you bring the drone close to the ground and look up, you just look straight across the ground. So they started putting the radars on top so that the drones fly with a little bit of upward cant. And now you can go to the ground and look up and get an amazing, like, up from the ground shot that you could never get before. So they've literally done that because of feedback from people that were like, all I can do is look straight forward, and it's almost useless. I need to be able to look up and down and forward if I want. And that's where they started putting the radars up on top, and they get that like hunchback looking look. So I've always decided I'm going to get one like that so I can do that.
Have you seen the MIT designed propeller blades, the toroidal blades? They look like kind of like two ovals. Each blade is like two ovals, and it cuts out that high pitched frequency, that high pitched whine.
That's super cool. This, I would think, would be highly suspect. You're not supposed to, those are aircraft, and you're not supposed to fly around aircraft. So I'm guessing there's some kind of, wow, that's New Mexico. Some kind of waiver for that.
Well, you probably wouldn't usually have that many balloons that close.
That's a New Mexico festival, I think, that they do once a year. Or maybe they do them in other countries. Sometimes you can see footage like this and they can do other things in other countries. But the one trick I heard is just go over water, since nobody can really care about what you do over water. So if you want like cool footage, just go somewhere where there's water and do all your cool footage from the water, and nobody can complain. And you can use all your footage. But usually if you go over a street or if you're over like a parking lot, nobody can complain about it.
There's a First Amendment advocate in England, and he flies his drone over stuff. I find it pretty funny because he'll go up and he'll tell them, I'm going to fly my drone over your building, and they'll say, well, you can't. We're not going to allow you. And he's like, well, I'm going to do it.
Nice.
Good. Legally, he can do it because it's airspace and they don't have the laws for
Yeah, that's why.
keep him from doing it.
Luckily in Oregon, if you have signs posted, or if you tell people, hey, you can't fly over my property, and they fly over your property, they can be in a lot of trouble. So
Well, let's just turn into a drone conversation. If you've been considering it, I say give it a try. Especially if you just want to dip your hands in. They are a lot better than they used to be, say, 10 years ago, or longer. So I'd say give one a try. And you may enjoy it. Kind of like G Webs was saying, it can be used for so many, family events, all types of things. I mean, where, could be applied into your life in some sense on different shots. So, or, other reasons or whatever the case is. So, I definitely say, look, get into them and get the feel for them. So if you liked radio controlled cars and stuff like that as a kid, you'd probably like a drone. So, and
So
I
if you want,
personally think a little better than the RC airplanes, price wise, because if you like those and get into those get up there too, even more than a medium drone in a sense in some cases. So, or the helicopters, that's crazy. I've seen so many people crash.
those are so hard to fly. You have to fly on a simulator for a long time before you can even consider
Just forward or something for those. I don't know.
I've flown some of those
real ones.
the helicopters, the remote control helicopters, and yeah, I crashed one.
Yeah, these are nothing like that. These are nothing. You don't have to know nothing about flying for a drone compared to that. Nothing. Just don't hit things. That's the only thing you have to know about it. Like none of the actual knowledge of flying that thing. I was going to say with the drone, here's a free tip for anybody that's thinking about it and wants a free business thing. So one of the things I never got a chance to do, I was still learning how to do this, but essentially there's like 7 or 8 moves that you can do with a drone that are pretty dramatic, let's say. So essentially think of like out here we have saguaro cactuses or something. Think of like a telephone pole or like it could work on a building, but that's a little bit too big. But think of like a light post or something that's like a pole up into the air, right? So you take your drone and you essentially just park it up on top of the telephone pole, right? It's going to be something more interesting than a telephone pole, maybe like a windmill, right? Something that's up there that's interesting. And then you're going to park your drone not dangerously close, but just somewhere right above that thing. And you turn on the camera and start to go backwards. So let's say you're looking at the sunrise, or let's say you're looking at, some item that's interesting, and you're going to go backwards a little bit. So as you go backwards, it's not really a fisheye, but I forget the focal point or whatever, like the way that the camera on a drone works, if you go backwards away from your subject matter, you're going to eventually, that thing that you were on top of, the saguaro cactus or the windmill or the telephone pole or whatever it is, that's going to come into view. And even though you're not going up or down, the way that the camera magnifies and the way the focal point is, that's going to be a very dramatic motion on the screen. And it's going to also create scale for the thing that you're looking at. So if you're looking at Mount Rushmore or like a big fancy building or a sunset, that thing that you're backing away from creates scale, right? And it creates proportion for the video. And that quick little thing that I just described there is just enough to be a useful piece for people who are creating content. So if everybody understands what I'm saying there, that's like a really simple move that you can just take your drone up, you kind of figure out where would be a good place to do this. Oh, the sun's setting, this is beautiful. I'm going to put my drone up on top of that windmill and I'm going to get that footage, right? And maybe you do that 3 or 4 times to get, because you don't ever know that just like anything in photography, you're going to do it 3 or 4 times and make sure that you get one version that's good, or maybe you can blend a couple of them together if you have to, right? So now you bring that drone back down. That took you moments. Like you saw it. Oh, wait, I'm going to get this great sunset. Or, oh, look at that eagle flying. I'm going to get that, quick shot. You once you learn how to do that with your drone and you collect these little samples, these little pieces, you put those on a YouTube channel that is, let's say I'm in Arizona. So I might say TucsonDroneFootage.com or something, right? And then have these little samples. Now somebody who's selling real estate in Arizona, somebody who's making a video about birds, or somebody who needs something about windmills, they find your video sample because you've tagged it, video sample for sale, windmills, Arizona, birds, whatever. And now they found it and you say $5 and you can use this video footage. You can literally make money doing this. Now, if you are still following me and now you just go up in the air, you do something not necessarily super dramatic, but just something interesting. But you do this in the rich parts of town, or when you travel, you find out where the parts would have the most property value are, and you just do that a few times, And now you put that up on there and you say, rich part of town, the foothills of so and so, Scottsdale, Arizona, foothills, real estate photo. Or you go to the industrial part of town and you go, Tucson industrial real estate photo. People who are in real estate agents for the industrial stuff are going to pay you. Think about how much industrial real estate goes for. And if they can help sell industrial real estate with your footage, number one, you create a relationship. They go, hey, I need that except for this other location. Can you get that for me? And you say, well, it's going to cost you twice because I have to go over there and get it. Okay, no problem. And then in the future, I'm going to call you for other things. So you can literally become a residential or a commercial real estate aerial photographer by simply having fun with your drone. Very simple, easy to fly little techniques, and then a simple YouTube channel. And you put that out like a net, and you get a couple of real estate agents that know that you're the person to go to, and hopefully you make some money. And if you do, go buy a couple of patches off of me and buy a display from R&L Displays.
Yep, 100% agree.
That's why I was practicing getting that sunset shot with the sign. I was like going to go, oh man, this would be a perfect shot of that sign or whatever. And then my drone was like, oh yeah, bam.
It got an ultimate close up of that sign.
Yeah, it was like China was like, wait a minute, we don't want this guy to be rich.
I'm almost scared to now. Like, probably got to update to some mystery app and everything, and I don't
What
know.
drives me nuts is the last time I flew that thing, it was like magic because it was working on that phone. I have the phone now. Like my friend gave me the phone, just that that day he had it in his pocket. But it was just like in a TV commercial or something. Like I was looking, I didn't even have to look at the drone. I just looked at the screen, and it was like if I was a little tiny pilot in the drone or something. It was great. But that's still a phone that's like, I think 3 years old. It's not a new phone.
Yeah, I don't know about that. The blades Foss was talking about there. I've seen some pop-ups in my feeds about new boat propellers that are similar to what he was that is supposed to create, I don't know, more thrust with less, force.
Yeah, there is one that's for sale, and it's supposed to be really efficient, but they're really expensive.
Like expensive to the point where it's,
I think it's like a couple grand for a blade.
Wow.
Oh, in other words, they're not making a model with that blade. You have to just buy the prototype blades for thousands of bucks.
Well, for a boat motor, the ones for the drones, MIT designed them, and then people are 3D printing them. So I don't know how closely they match MIT's.
Oh,
but so the link in the private chat is just someone that did a thrust and sound comparison. You can hear the difference in the sound.
I never thought about printing drone blades. That might be interesting.
That would probably be cool because those are one of those parts that you end up having a problem with sometimes. I've always liked the ones where it's got a something around them, art or something. I know, that's kitty toy to professionals, but once in a while you bump into something. So, but blades seem to be, one of the main things that got to be replaced. So, whether it's a tree branch or a rough landing or even grass, sometimes you come down, depending where you're coming down, can be a problem. So,
I think I just found a drone that shoots, I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 4 airsoft BBs one at a time. It's got like a magazine with 4 airsoft BBs in it. The website's gone, but that's what it looked like. That would be super cool. And it was tiny. It fit in your hand. It just was barely bigger than the little, like a little spring powered air gun shooter looking thing with a little tiny drone attached.
Wonder if those boat propellers are, if they're made out of something different to get that loop.
I
Yeah.
think they're brass.
You said they're about $1,000.
Yeah, pretty. Let's see if I can find them. But yeah, I swear the video that talked about, yeah, here it is. Said that they were really expensive.
So I think this episode's been probably way off in the weeds from what we normally do with drones.
Well, we started it with a 2A rally, looking at drones of a rally. So we started it with 2A.
Yep.
Yeah, they're $5,000.
Interesting. And then it looks like these things are quieter, but then it looks like they would be less dangerous too. Right?
I don't know. Maybe, if you're speaking of like to wildlife or something. Are you talking about the drones or the boat?
Oh, sorry. I'm looking at the link in here. The drone looks kind of like the biohazard sign. Like it's a bunch of 3 circles connected together, and there's just a blade on a portion of it, so that it's kind of its own safety device. But I guess that also makes it quieter. So, or is it both quieter and faster?
From what I watched after it,
I'm not
I
watching.
kind of came across the video and looked at the 3D printed one people were doing. They weren't didn't seem to be as efficient. The batteries didn't last as long as the regular ones. So I don't know if the shape isn't quite like the MIT ones. I don't know if the MIT ones were more efficient or not. But the batteries don't quite last as long. But there's one video I know I watched, the dude running around his backyard, and that thing zipped around fine. Looked almost as fast as with the regular blades to me.
But no sound, or very little sound.
There still is sound, but it cuts off that really high frequency, that kind of high buzzing noise that's in there.
Okay.
So it changes the way it sounds a little bit.
It makes sense because you can. I mean, I don't know if we're not showing the picture. I guess I can show the picture. It's probably just some kind of a turbulence thing. Obviously, it's some kind of physics or whatever. With the way the flat part is going right in front of the blade, it must. Well, I'm screen sharing here. This is from the video or whatever. It's like right at the beginning of the video, they have it sitting there. So there's like a propeller, but then they just make it into a circle. So it's kind of like the biohazard thing. And then that part here, I think it seems safer, but I don't know, maybe it isn't. But then I'm guessing this just disrupts the air before it hits here.
Yeah, there's other ones that are just 2 loops also.
Do they still connect like that at the end?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't listening. I just kind of thumbed through to see what it was about. But yeah, that one's printed too.
Yeah, they kind of look like a Mobius loop where it circles around and turns over.
Yeah. As Vanessa Kitty says, I saw an MIT autonomous drone swarm at military base in Massachusetts. Interesting to see them all start up, map, and organize in an area.
Yeah, it's really cool and kind of really scary. The displays when they're lit with LEDs and they make shapes and with those drone swarm things.
I look like perfect shotgun targets to me. So, yeah, that is kind of neat. But yeah, when you consider the other aspects in it or whatnot, it's kind of crazy. So, everything can be used, two different ways, I guess you could look at it. So.
So I'll do a little update for everyone. The leg's is getting better. So the vacuum was over 2 separate wounds on the leg, and on Wednesday we did a test to just put it to a single wound, and then put some like gauze packing in the second one and cover it with a like 2x2 Band-Aid. And when I went back in yesterday, everything was working good. So we're doing the same thing. We're just running the vac over the major wound, and the smaller one we're just packing it with like a medical gauze that has like antibiotic, ointment on it, and got it covered with a Band-Aid. And so everything's doing good, healing pretty good. And I know Tim S. was talking earlier about having stitches in his foot and them being annoying. Well, try having stitches in your scrotum. And if you sit wrong, because those stitches, if you've ever had stitches, they have like sharp edges. They'll stab you, and that hurts. I'm just telling you. So everything is healing good, and we're moving forward.
You got like those nylon type stitches. I don't know. Probably not nylon, but that's what it reminds me of.
I don't have any anymore. They took the stitches out, and they were blue stitches. So you got the joke yourself, on where they were located. So I was saying that to the nurse when she was taking them out. I was like, so I don't have blue balls anymore. She didn't think it was so funny. I was laughing my ass off.
So probably not when she's there staring at your balls. Probably not. Wow.
So, what was it? The other day, the wife wanted coffee, so we stopped at the coffee shop for her. And one of the girls that works there, she's studying to become a nurse. And we were discussing the wound, and she's like, "Oh, do you have pictures? I so want to see that." So I let her see the picture of the wound.
Oh my God, you're showing crotch shot. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. You get a free coffee?
Oh, that she enjoyed seeing the photo of the wounds.
I pulled them out myself. I haven't had them there, but that itch you're talking about, or not itch, but the uncomfortableness, or almost like they're made out of like plastic strands or whatever. Man, that stuff will drive you nuts. So like a pair of nail clippers to clip them, and then tweezers or something. I've just pulled them out myself. Plus, it saves the visit going back to the doctor or whatever. So, I mean, obviously, condition you probably don't want to take any chances, but man, that itch will drive you nuts, man. And then getting caught on stuff when you get dressed or this or that. Those little edges like that. So you can try to clip them down so they don't catch so much. But then a lot of times, if you do anything, pull too hard, it'll just pull back apart. So it's never fun.
This would be difficult for me because I'm a professional hurdler, and I like to keep a very slight distance between me and the hurdles. So if I had a bunch of stitches there, that would get caught up on that because I was jumping.
God, that'd be horrible.
Now, is this scar that you've got gonna affect your professional scrotum modeling?
I don't think so. I think my OnlyFans page will still be up and strong.
Let the doctor know, like, hey, this has to be a very cosmetically, like, delicate situation here. It has to look like there's been no scar.
You never know. You might get new people because of the scars.
I like this account before the scars. And other people are gonna be like, no, I thought I really picked up after the scars.
Woods is out there, so guns are cool. Just saying. He doesn't want to hear. He doesn't want to hear about scars in places that he finds too sensitive.
What's the real story about how you got this injury? I mean, I know you say it just came out of nowhere, but yeah, pretty sure you probably got shot trying to steal Glock parts, or the lady stabbed you. So what's the real reason?
We heard this is leftover residue from the gum.
Could be.
Well, don't know exactly how it happened. Maybe the wife stabbed me in the sleep. I don't know.
Or was it the chip? Sorry, the chip. And then
It could be. It could be the one chip challenge. Who knows? If it was the one chip, man, that took quite a long time before it finally got me.
Did you cut yourself manscaping?
No, I do not manscape. Until now, the nurses do shave down there every once in a while to make sure that they can get a better seal for the wound. I'm just saying.
That sucks. I'm shocked you still have a wound. I mean, that, seems like it's taken a hell of a long time to clear up for something that just came from nowhere. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've had some pretty bad. Well, I haven't had that, so I guess maybe that's the difference. So,
well, just to put the size out there for you, it goes from under the scrotum up the growing all the way up to about the waistline. So it's not like it's a small area. It's pretty. They filleted it wide open. Let's just say.
damn.
And this is all because you carried 9mm? Do I understand that correctly?
A Glock. It's because
It's
he
all-
carried.
You this 9mm once, and this is the situation.
I didn't even carry it. I just touched a 9mm, and all of a sudden, bam, it happened.
I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
Remember, kids, don't let this happen to you. Choose a decent caliber. Choose an American caliber.
Jamie, Mr. JH says, so this update is getting way too informative. At least I'm not showing you the pictures, Jamie.
Those are a special premium upgrade on the OnlyFans.
I'm just saying,
You
To
could probably pay for all that gas by doing that.
right? I probably should. But yeah, it's a pretty nasty wound.
It sounds like something I don't want to have any part of. I can help it.
If you heard the wife, it's not a wound. They cut half your leg out.
I can't imagine, dude. I know somebody that had this from their foot, I thought, from like a bathroom type of thing, like a shower or something, like, you know, an athlete's foot gone wrong type of thing where you get this. But essentially, it's a something that's flesh eating that is what it's super resistant to any kind of strains of antibiotics. And I mean, that's not even that's like literally scary shit. And I can imagine it like, you know, on the extremity of the tip of a toe or something, but having it close to your, it's got to be stressful as hell going through that.
Yep. I'm telling you, there's a lot more to the flesh-eating bacteria than any of us truly know. Because there's people that, like, you get it, and there's no way you even know that, like, where you got it. You know, like, there was a kid, I think he was down in, like, the Missouri area, down in the South. He was 11 years old, and he rolled his ankle. And then, like, it wasn't getting any better. And the swelling was staying, and it was still staying, like, bright pink and everything. Yeah, he ended up having flesh-eating bacteria and died. And for a lot of people, if it's not caught early, it goes sepsis. And so the poison, the bacteria gets in your bloodstream and ends up killing you. And all the doctors I saw were saying, yeah, you were pretty darn close to having that sepsis point.
Then what do? Try to like pull all your blood out as fast as they can and put new blood in or something?
Pretty much you die. They try pumping you with antibiotics and everything, but yeah, if they can't like kill the bacteria, kill the infection.
This is where modern medical fails, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I think you get something like that, you lance it, you scrape it out, you dump some gasoline on it, you know, let it if you can find it, rub a little dirt on it, and you're cured in a week.
What about the Rambo way? Like you just bite a bullet off, throw the gunpowder in there, and light it.
That works too. I mean,
or better yet, hold the empty case up there, smack a rock against that primer, and you don't waste a match.
But no, you go to the doctors, and it's the end of the world, and now they got to cut half of you out and throw it into McDonald's, and it's just I don't know. They you know, they're just gonna keep band-aiding it, you know.
Oh, wow. Mr. Foss says G23 Saturday chat brought to you by Tease Nuts. Yep.
Cleaned up some fresh comfrey, rub it all in there, wrap it. It'll suck all that crap out of there. Next thing you know, you'll be running marathons.
That'd be a feat because I wasn't running marathons before this.
Yeah. Nature can surprise you. But the customer come home with a giant clear bag of comfrey. I don't know if anybody's seen this, but to me, it looked like she was walking up the road with a bunch of weed basically out of her car. I was like, what the heck? Like, I guess it's pretty cheap. So we've experimented with it since then. Light injuries, just the lady likes the stuff. But it looked pretty fun. Seeing this lady walk up the street with this big old bag full of that. I don't know. It was funny at the time. I guess you had to be there.
Probably. Well, even after telling people the update, we still got 20 people here. So I guess we're doing okay.
Yeah, I should catch Travis's show this morning.
I caught part of it.
Yeah, and I guess it was about tactical shotguns. So, gonna say, maybe we could rip off part of his show. Maybe, I don't know. But what's your guys' take on those? Be a thing? If they got a place? You own one?
I own a tactical shotgun.
Your KSG?
Yeah, I mean, bullpup is compact, 26.25 inches overall, so you can keep it shouldered, keep it low ready, when you're going around corners, and still bring it right back up into, if you're doing CQB. So.
What about you, G-Webs?
I don't like shotguns, so I'm not a fan of them. I think they're for cops who have specific, like use situations, but they're too much usually. Like you're throwing too much out there, and you got to carry the weight. So if you're carrying 1 ounce's shot, let's say, I don't know what they weigh, whatever, carrying a shotgun shell and it weighs as much as 2 regulars, then you don't get to decide 2 shots. You're going to shoot 1 shot and it's going to weigh the same as 2. So just loadout wise, you've only got half as many as you could have with the same amount of weight if you went with some other option that was half the weight. So that's my big issue technically that way. But then the other way is number of shots, or I mean the size of the rounds and stuff, because they're so big, they're huge. So your magazines are massive and they're only 10 rounds. So you're switching them out all the time. Then mostly the size comparison, but also just the usefulness of a shotgun shell. So whatever the range is, it starts to spread and it's less useful than like an AR. So I just don't like them. And if you don't need them for something specifically, or if you're not, I don't know, there's like not 6 other reasons you have this firearm, and that's just you're applying, tactical or whatever you're calling it as one of the applications. Maybe there's a thing, but I've just never been an advocate for shotguns as much. They're definitely neat and they can do a lot, but they're always my 3rd or 4th option with like bolt guns. They're a little bit too specific for moving targets, and in reality, with legality and morality, we don't get to play with moving targets that way. We should be more precise.
What about you, Foss?
I'm not interested. I almost bought a KS-12, the Kalashnikov shotgun once, just because I thought it was funky looking. But went back to the gun shop the next day and it was gone, so I bought something else.
That's why I almost bought one too. Went back later that day, and he was finishing up the paperwork when I showed up. So I should have just got it earlier. But, it was a long drive home, torment, and then ran it. But I think I'd ran it by the lady, and she wasn't against it. And I was like, oh, well, shit. So ran back and missed out. So I like them. I think there's a place for them. I don't think they're ideal for everything. Obviously, it's not something, I'd want to patrol with or lug around on a regular basis. I think if you have an intention or something that works out good, I think they're really good on, in some cases hunting or defense. But as far as tactical, I would say defensive, a hallway gun, stairway gun, something like that. Especially somebody that's not very experienced or very confident. I think that's, a decent amount of force that a bad guy is going to have to try to get through that most people aren't going to attempt in that situation. But round count is an issue. So that's something as well. And reloads are slow unless you're a professional shotgunner. I don't know what you would call that, probably. Double feeding rounds at the same time or loading them like that, where you're pulling 2-3 rounds out and just slamming them in. That takes a lot of practice. I've played around with it myself. Not that it can't be done or learned, but for the average person, probably not most ideal. So, but all in all, I like them. And I think also, kind of, this may sound weird, but a great way to kind of blow off steam. And as they say, gun therapy, something that kind of, is a little rough, can be fun sometimes. I don't know.
I'll give it that. Like shooting moving targets with a shotgun, ultimately fun, and really nothing else can do moving targets like that.
See, and with like the KSG, you got what, 12+1 if you're running 3-inch shells, 14+1 if you're running 2 3/4, and if you get the mini shells, you can run like 24+1. So that's like 25 shots. You don't have to worry too much about reloading.
Big fan of mini shell. They can work or whatever, but if I'm using a shotgun, I want it for that, power, for the capabilities, whatever. So I think it's cool they have them, and in some cases, sure, it may be better off for you as far as liability aspects. But at the same time, as a whole, I'm not a huge fan. Like I said, I don't own any. If that tells you anything, I don't know.
West Covina Dodge says the frangible rounds for his martini is all he has. 600 grains of number 4 buck. So are those dollar store chips?
I was going to see if Foss ever eats these things. This is a piece of seaweed with somehow mushrooms and a piece of fried tempura on there.
No, I have not seen those before.
Mushroom, fried seaweed, tempura. Would you eat this or no?
I'd try it.
Very crunchy.
I'd pass.
That'd be like a hard pass.
Mushroom and black pepper flavor.
Not 100% sure. I'm into trying something that weird.
There's nothing really
Have you-
weird about it.
Yeah, have you had tempura before? Like
No.
shrimp or something? Oh, really? It's a very light batter, but it's like a crispy fried batter. You can kind of see it here, but it's a horrible version of it. But
Yeah, you've ever had
tempura's
like fried prawns from a Chinese restaurant? That'll be like tempura.
Maybe. I've definitely had a lot of deep fried fish or seafood.
It's not really fried. I mean, it is fried, but it's the way that it's the batter. It's a very light batter, but this is just a piece of seaweed, I guess, with it on there.
What's Kavina Dodge says, looks good. I'd eat it.
The stuff like that pass our health inspections, food inspections.
I can't see why, because it says it's 250 calories, but it's essentially a piece of seaweed, which is just like lettuce from the ocean, I guess. But then they fry it, so it tastes greasy. It is greasy. It tastes like a potato chip. Technically, there's a piece of seaweed attached to it, so I can't imagine it's healthy or anything.
That's more my concern about it is, how it was made, how it was processed, some of this stuff. So, like, I'm even picky on the rice I buy for that reason. Things like that.
Made in Thailand, so that's good for you.
Okay, I'm just curious because, I don't know. There's different standards, different places. So I'm just curious. Some of this stuff, I've even gotten candies from other countries and stuff, and I've never had a problem, but I'm always skeptical. Just my nature.
So, what's the carb count and what's the serving size?
Oops, the serving size is the entire bag, 250 calories. The carbohydrate is 6% at 17 grams. Is that a lot? I don't know what that means.
Well, it's not horrible because, so if you're a diabetic, a standard is you want about 180 grams of carbs a day. So you break that down, or you want 210 grams total. So you want like 60 per meal, and then 2 snacks. So your snacks are about 15 grams per snack.
Okay, so it's a little bit bad, but not without. I mean, it's only 2 off.
Yeah, and so you could easily, like, if you had that for your snack, you could easily take and be like, okay, well, my next meal, I'm only going to have, like 58 grams of carbs so this way you're, balancing everything out.
It's a total ripoff though, because it's this giant bag and there's like a couple of them in the bottom, kind of thing.
I hate that with chips. I've been complaining for years, and people say, "Oh, well, when they pack them, it's full and they just settle." I don't buy that. I just don't buy it.
Well,
That
the companies say now that that's protection for the chips, that air pocket.
Because that
They give
would
it cushioning.
be more viable. I mean, more believable in a sense. Because other than that, why couldn't they just shake them and condense it and take 5 cents off the bill for the bag? You know what I mean? Because the bags would be half the size. I mean, I think they could still make it small, puff them with air, and we'd save material and should get a discount. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but packaging, shelf space, it takes up room, and in stores, room is money.
Plus, it's just material. Yeah, like this could be packaged for two of them, not for one. So it's just a waste. But I hear what you're saying. Like they say that the chips themselves aren't going to smash into each other and powderize. So as long as you give them a place, and then you flood it with nitrogen, then they last a long time. But still.
So yesterday I was at Costco, and I was looking for some Tillamook pepperoni sticks because, they're good. But I like the zero sugars. and I've eaten those for quite a long time. And there was a lady who was getting some beef jerky for her husband, and I heard her talk to like her granddaughter and say, "Oh yeah, well I gotta be careful how many of these I give to Grandpa because he's diabetic." And so I told her, I was like, "Well, Tillamook makes 0 sugars," and so we started talking about that, and she ended up getting that, and I mean, those are great snacks because 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and it's 9 grams of protein. So you're getting a nice protein load there and not having to, so it's another thing you can really look at. It's if you're cutting a bunch of sugars and stuff like that. And why do you need to put a whole lot of sugar in beef jerky? You should be getting there for the meat taste, right?
Well, that's when people want to play around, right? And it's probably the like sweet and sour barbecue flavor or whatever, where they're going to put all the sugar in, probably. Unless it's like a curing thing, because sugar can be used like salt to cure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or maybe it's a tenderizer thing, like you can use batter, like tougher meat if you sugar it up or tenderize it with the sugar, maybe. I don't know.
I like the black pepper beef jerky. Pepper jerky, that stuff's pretty good. I don't think, to my knowledge, they don't put sugar on it, but they might. Who knows? You wouldn't think.
Sometimes they like soak in sugar and then it becomes part of it, but it's not like an ingredient. You know what I mean?
So you'd probably be surprised if you actually looked at the label there, Rob, because almost every bit of your beef jerky and your like pepperoni sticks, stuff like that, have a lot of sugar in them. And it's just weird because I didn't even realize that until one day I saw the Tillamook and it said 0 sugar. I'm like, what do you mean 0 sugar? So then I started looking. I took a 0 sugar and I took a regular same brand, and I'm like, holy crap! There's a hell of a lot of sugar in this. And so I started looking at other brands, and yeah, a lot of them use sugar, even in your spicy or your pepper jerky. There's still a hell of a lot of sugars. Something to look at.
Yeah, good to know. I mean, if you're somebody that is checking your intake and stuff. I know for me, my biggest concern with beef jerky is the damn price. Yeah, I don't want the garbage store brand stuff because I've tried it and it's horrible. And the price of that was like $16 a pound or something like that. Beef, like it's freaking off the wall, man.
Yeah, it's pretty spendy.
Can I afford it or not? Like, I want it. It's just, can I justify buying it right now or not?
I caught it on sale,
Sure.
and it was still $13.99 a pound. And I thought that was a good deal. I mean, compared to $17.99 a pound.
That's crazy. The cost of that stuff. It is good. I could, chew on beef jerky every day if I could afford to. Great stuff, but definitely not cheap.
What about Pessimon? Was that how you say it? The powdered stuff from back in the old days?
Oh yeah, the one that came in like the can where you could like act like you had a dip in your lip.
Yeah, that's supposed to be what like in the Civil War version of beef jerky was. I think.
Yeah, that's not bad too. Kind of like chew, except you don't have to spit or something. But I prefer actual beef jerky than that, but I have had that as a kid. It did come in tins. I don't know if it was Wild Bill's or something like that. It used to come in a tin like that, but that stuff would go so quick. It was always a waste of money. Yeah.
But I'm saying people make that, like for preppers and stuff, like they'll make it, especially when like, you know, they find meat on sale or something. It's like a way to prepare the meat for long-term storage from, I think it works for any kind of meat, right? Like, so you could use that from the scraps and from the, you know, trimmings from the big roasts and stuff. I think that's where it came from originally.
Yeah, I'd eat it versus throw it away for sure. But buying it like that, you know, making it or something, sure, yeah. But buying it, you know, if I'd prefer it was regular beef jerky, I guess. It's just I like the texture, and it seems like you eat it slower when you're dealing with the texture and kind of going for flavor and not just because you're hungry. Where that other stuff, it's like, you know, I guess you would call it a pinch or whatever. Like you just blow through that in, you know, 10 minutes. Like, I don't know, probably quicker. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I don't know. No, I guess bang for buck, I guess.
So
It's
Moose
not like
says,
satisfying. That's what I was wondering. Like if you could eat like 2 pinches and be like full, or if it like
No.
somehow satisfies. No, okay. So it's more like it's flavoring or like something. More
yeah, you could eat the whole can and be like, okay, I'm ready for like 20 more cans.
Yeah, if you weren't careful, you could definitely dump it all in your mouth at one time and yeah, eat it like that if you wanted to. But yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, waste your money in a sense. I don't know. I guess it's not, but I don't know.
So
One thing as a kid.
So Moose says, I have a bag of Old Trapper peppered beef jerky on my desk right now. Beef, brown sugar, salt, 6 grams of carbs per serving.
Dude,
Wow.
I'd sue him. It
That
says
bad.
right on there that it's peppered beef, and the ingredients don't even have pepper in it.
I know, right? What is the sugar on that, Moo? Is that 34, 40 something grams of sugar?
No, it says 6 grams of carbs. That's all. The sugar would be carbs, wouldn't it?
No.
Oh, it's a different thing.
Yeah. So your carbs are more like you get a lot more of your carbs in breading and stuff like that.
It's probably
Isn't
like 3 to
cholesterol
4
from the-
servings.
Isn't cholesterol from the fat? You would think this fried thing would have cholesterol in it. And this thing says 0 cholesterol for this seaweed stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, so speaking of food, I was minding my business and I went to the store the other day. I mentioned this before. I get paid to eat at Five Guys. So I was at Five Guys getting paid to eat there. And I ordered a thing of Cajun fries because I like the Cajun fries there now. And they gave me regular fries. So according to my rules, I'm supposed to go up and tell them they made a mistake, right? And in this case, they said, okay, we'll just make you another order. So just a FYI tip, if you order Cajun fries at Five Guys and they give you the wrong ones, they're going to give you another order of them, right? So I've got this order of plain fries and I've got to order of Cajun fries coming. So I immediately go into cheap ass mode and I go, I'm going to eat these plain ones here and eat them Cajun ones at home. I'm going to take them home, right? So I was like, what am I going to do with these plain fries? Because I had Cajun fries in my head, right? So I decided to try something wild. And they have malt vinegar there. And I tried malt vinegar. So I don't know what your opinion is of malt vinegar. I've always assumed it was from Europe, so it was no good. I understand it now. I'm like, oh crap. I'm not saying it's good and I'm going to eat it all the time, but I tried it and now I get it. I understand it. So I don't know. Have you ever tried vinegar?
I've tried malt. I've tried malt vinegar on like cod, fried cod fillets, and when you do like fish and chips.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried it that way.
Yeah, I never have because it seems gross. And why would I want to put water on my food? And I was like, I'm going to try it because these are essentially free fries. But yeah, I get it. It's sort of like If you've never tried it, it's like mustard without the mustard part. It's like just the kind of the flavor of mustard and water a little bit. I don't know. It's not quite like that, but that's what I would explain it.
I went to Five Guys one time and got my order, and I was missing a burger. So I went up to the counter. I said, "Oh, I'm missing a cheeseburger." And kind of talking to her, looked at the receipt, and realized I didn't order. I had forgotten to order one.
Oh.
And so I told them, I'm saying, it was my mistake. I'm sorry. And they go, no, we'll make you a burger. So even though it was my mistake, they gave me a cheeseburger.
Very cool. So that your kid or whoever wasn't not eating, right? So that everybody was eating.
Yeah.
I mean, I get paid to eat there, but yeah, they're definitely cool. Like they seem like a pretty cool restaurant.
So, Mr. Mark Thomas says Thrasher fries are an East Coast boardwalk food soaked in malt vinegar and delicious.
I've never had them.
Yeah, I mean, I would have never eaten them before. It's just like say I was going to try something, and the thing is, that's what I don't get. Is I'd want to have like a bowl of that and dip it in there because it's essentially throwing water on them on your French fries, and it's cold, so that's weird. But then you don't have enough. Like you'd need that whole bottle to get them all wet. So you end up splashing some on there, and some of the French fry has it on there, and some of it doesn't. And I didn't want to use the whole bottle. So I think if I was doing it at home or something, I would have like a little bowl and fill the bowl up and then dip into there. But again, I'm not accustomed to it. I don't know the deal, like how you're supposed to do it in Europe or whatever.
Seems counterproductive to me. I like my fries crispy. I hate soggy fries. Like you go places and they give them to you or whatever, or just or people try to bake fries or whatever. Like it's just like no. None of that is.
I hear you. It doesn't. It gets them wet for sure, but it's like ketchup. Like it doesn't turn them soggy because there's not enough water. Like it's just there's water on them, and it's kind of weird. But because it tastes like mustard. It's about like having mustard minus the paste. It's like all the flavor of mustard without the actual mustard part being there. So it doesn't get them. At least there wasn't enough time for these fries to get any kind of like mushy or anything.
So, if we're gonna talk like food, how many people dip their fries in their Frosty?
I don't understand that. I know people that do. I don't get it. I don't know if I've ever tried, but I don't know if I've ever had any.
I've had no interest in doing that.
No, I don't like sweet and regular food together. I separate my sweet food from my.
I don't know why you'd bother personally. I mean, for one, Frosties suck. I mean, they're okay, but they're tiny, and you can't even get like a real large or anything. What the hell's the point?
Yep. What are they made out of gold or something? Like, here's your $1 one. I'm like, what is this? A joke? Is this one of them dog ones or something? Come on.
So, I mean, on that aspect, what the hell's the point? And then 2, I like my fries crispy. And 3, I'm just not into fast food like that. I think the best fries, like literally, are what we just had them the other day. Are like russet potatoes cut up and fried, like done right, crispy. Just regular potatoes at home, taste right. And to me, compared to those frozen fries you buy and throw in the oven or something, or even if you try to deep fry them, they don't have the right taste.
No, those are wrong.
See,
what about shoestring potatoes? You know what I'm talking about? The tiny fries that are super crispy. Tiny potato chip.
I don't want to say, and I'm really not a big curly fry fan either, because they're not really crispy most of the time. So I'm just a picky fry guy. I don't know what to say.
See, so I like the crinkle fries, crunchy, and then like Mark Thomas, he's like, yes, Frosty and milkshake. Sometimes you just gotta dip them in there, and I'm telling you.
No, you don't.
I haven't had a Frosty in forever, so I don't know if my van will fit through a Wendy's drive-through or not, so I might go get a Frosty. I don't know if I'm gonna get the fries because I don't really like Wendy's fries. That's the other problem. Their fries are not on my top of my list of fries that I like.
I've never had a Frosty.
Oh, really? It's a very, very thick milkshake. Like you can stick a spoon in it and it isn't going anywhere. It's that kind. It's not ice cream or anything, but it's not.
It's
like a
malt.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
So you have to eat it with a spoon.
Point.
That's why I don't even know how you can jam French fries into it. It's so hard. Like it's gonna break your French fries, isn't it?
No, it works.
Ah,
Well, if they're warm or whatever.
you gotta use a spoon. So if you're driving, it's a bitch. And then you're gonna take the time to sit there and eat with it, and then you got a damn baby cup. Or you feel weird because you're ordering 4 of them. You know what I mean? And you got to sit there and juggle 4 cups when it could just be 1 cup, but they want to waste the packaging and everything. I don't know. It blows my mind. I just, like, for little kids, like a little item or something. Sure, it makes sense. But an adult, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
And you don't even need a straw. Like I don't remember ever waiting around for a Frosty, except for an accident or like in an emergency or something. Like you don't ever wait around for a Frosty to melt. Like you just eat the whole thing with a spoon, right? Like I don't think I've ever seen anybody drink one.
I mean, go to Sonic, man. Half price after 8. Something.
You can still do it with Sonic. You could take a Sonic milkshake and fries and dip them. I'm just saying.
What about what do they call a Slurpee over there? The slushy thing. You're going to dip fries into a slushy?
I wouldn't. I'm not rude.
I'm wondering how I'm pushing it. I'm seeing how far he's going to keep jamming fries into just stuff. He's jamming fries into a RT or whatever.
I have never tried in a slushy, but if you're using like a milkshake or like a Frosty, you can do it. I'm just saying, it's not bad.
I definitely have seen people do it, and I knew way before the internet people doing it. Like when I was a little kid, people did it, but I knew people that would go to like
80s, 90s,
and they'd pour like a suicide. They'd put every flavor of soda into a cup, and I'm like, you can do that. It's legal, but now you have to drink it. Like I wouldn't want to drink that. That's not going to taste good anymore. Like as soon as you put Tab into the rest of that, you ruined it. Like what are you doing? You don't have to put everyone in there. Just I can understand like, oh, I'm going to put Dr. Pepper and root beer together maybe or something like come up, or maybe orange and lemon or something like. But no, you're going to put Tab in there? No, or Diet Pepsi in there? What are you doing? No.
I heard, I saw a short, I think it was a short on YouTube. Somebody said that Dr. Pepper is basically Coke and root beer. If you mix them, I think it's 2 to 1. I think 2 parts Coke, 1 part root beer. It's supposed to taste just like Dr. Pepper.
I'm going to try that, but
I want to try it.
It can't work because there's prunes or something in there. So it's just got to be it tastes the same. I don't think it can be the same. Unless maybe there's prunes in one of those other 2 things. Well, at the Five Guys is what I'm used to. They're probably everywhere. I'm just not used to it. But they've got the robots where you go up there and you just start poking it, whatever you feel like drinking, and there's like thousands of different sodas in there. And you just decide what you feel like drinking, and then like when I choose root beer, it's then do you want cream soda or do you want root beer or do you want diet root beer or do you want root beer with cherry? Like you know what I mean? There's like a myriad of options. So maybe there's some way to do that in one of those.
And I'd like to go on record to say Barks sucks.
Barks has bite.
Yeah, Barks is the only one with caffeine.
Yeah, Barks sucks. It's not a good root beer.
None of them are good. None of the major brands are good, but at least Barks has caffeine, so that's what I usually default to.
Mark Thomas says if you put amaretto in a beer, it tastes like Dr. Pepper. Never tried it.
Are we going to talk about any of the waffle maker stuff, or are we going to ignore all the waffle makers talk that's been going on out there?
I have never tried, so Annie Marie says, you guys try hash browns in a waffle iron? I have not.
Seen it on a video.
They have this little single waffle maker at Walmart that's like $9.99 all the time. And I'm like, and I've seen videos where people cram like it's just about as big if you cracked an egg and it would fill up the waffle maker. So it's like a little tiny waffle. Like I don't know what it's for except for making YouTube videos or something, but it's this little tiny waffle maker. And I've thought about getting one of them just to make all kinds of weird stuff in there. See if I can make videos about it. But I'd eat potatoes. I think I could eat almost anything smushed in a waffle maker. Make anything I'm going to eat anyway. That seems like a cool way to make it. Except
I mean, I can see, because like M. Gabriel says he likes a good panini, and when they toast paninis, the panini bread, they use kind of pretty much like a waffle maker, or like a George Foreman grill, something like that, to toast the bread.
We have one, or I'm not sure if we still have one, a panini press, but we didn't use it enough to, you don't want paninis every day, so just takes up counter space.
And some people will make toasted cheese sandwiches in a waffle iron. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying. That sounds incredible. Like you're talking like a grilled cheese, except instead of putting it on the other way you're doing it, you're just going to take your breads and your cheese and smush it in a waffle maker for a while. I think that sounds like a great way to make a grilled cheese sandwich to me.
Nah, I'm a traditionalist. I'll use my pan.
So you say you're a traditionalist. When you make your toasted cheese, do you do like open face with cheese on both sides, get the cheese melted a ways, and then smush it together?
In cast iron with lard.
I'm good with the cast iron part. I'm okay, but I don't know about the lard.
And I go out in the woods and I hunt my cheese.
Wild cheese? I don't believe in that. It's not pasteurized enough. So, are you the kind that are you the kind of person that would take the bread and then butter it and then make it into a grilled cheese, or put mayonnaise on it and then make it into a grilled cheese, or is it raw bread going into the lard?
I will butter the pan and butter one side. So
the cheese side or the other side, I should say.
Well, I don't. I only put cheese on the inside.
Right, but I'm saying you butter
the
pan side. You don't butter the cheese side.
No.
Yeah, because I've seen people that butter the cheese side, and I think that's unnecessary. Using butter.
See, I'll throw butter in the pan, melt the butter, and throw the bread in, both sides of the bread, both pieces of bread in, and then get those starting to like toast up a little bit. Then I put the cheese on the open face so that they're, and I use a couple different kinds of cheeses.
This is the raw side of bread. You didn't flip the bread or nothing. This
didn't flip the bread. Yep. So you still got your sides that are panned down, that are toasting. Put your cheese on the upside. Let the cheese kind of start melting. Then smush it together and then finish off the sandwich to get it really cheesy, really melty. And the bread is toasted like perfect.
See, I'm okay if you toast the bread, flip it over, and now you've got that toasted part up. You've got the raw bread getting toasted. You put your cheese on that toasted part, so it's getting super toasted or super melted. Then right before you smush them, you throw more cheese in there, or a second or third type of cheese, and then cut it in half and eat it, I guess. But I like throwing an extra piece of cheese in there as you squish them together, and then the heat from the other cheeses goes into that third piece of cheese, or third type of cheese even. And that can be shredded, or it can be, crumbles of some kind of cheese that you don't slice.
Yep. Ooh, that would be good. Take like pepper jack on one side, take like provolone on the other, and then right before you smash it, put some blue cheese crumbles in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like something like that wouldn't melt normally good, but you can stick it in between of there, and now you're getting that extra flavor kick once in a while. And there's other things that are like blue cheese that'll work. There's some hard cheeses that'll work like that. Really salty hard cheeses that'll work where they won't work for the grilled cheese part, but they'll work for getting in there. There's my dollar store. I don't know if half the time they have stuff that's just $1, and then the other part of the time they have like closeouts from other stores that are getting rid of their stuff or something. So that's what we're getting now is the stuff that's coming from some other store, I think. And it's this Irish cheese from Ireland. I don't know if anybody's eaten Ireland
Like
cheese.
Kerrygold.
Man, I don't know. Then I think I took pictures of it. I think I mentioned it before, but I bought it because I was going up the mountain. We were going to go camping. So I don't normally buy cheese, but I was like, oh, I'm going to go up the mountain. I'm going to buy some cheese. And it's a white cheddar. And man, I wish they had it all the time because it is the sharpest cheddar. I figure the yellows are the sharpest, but this was one of the sharpest, like flavorfulest cheeses that ever. If anybody really cares, I'll find the name of it, but they still have it. Kind of cheese where you can't, it's too hard and like mullen stuff dry and hard. Omelet or something. I would eat it in cheese sandwiches, but.
Well,
Toast sides cheese between and then avocado and an egg on top. Eating that.
that just sounds. I don't know. That sounds like too much work.
The egg, yes. The avocado, no.
Avocado nut or just not in a cheese sandwich?
Not at all. I refuse to eat avocados.
But what about guac?
I
Because of
refuse to eat avocados.
So the cartels and how they've switched from the hard drugs in
Yep.
avocado.
What did the toaster say to the slice of bread?
Huh?
What did the toaster say to a slice of bread?
No clue.
Come on in.
I want
I'll-
inside me.
What?
He said, I want you inside me. Yes. So Annie Marie says, anyone ever have state cheese? Yeah, the cheese that they used to hand out, that government cheese, was the best for making grilled cheese.
It's just because it was the only cheese you knew, man.
Well,
And you didn't?
It was good cheese.
the government cheese was what they did with the subsidized milk. They had to do something with it, so they made the government cheese, and they would put them in caves to store them.
Well, I mean, cheese ages and gets more flavorful with time, right? So hopefully it came
Yeah.
out more sharp or whatever, right? Then more flavorful.
It did make kick-ass grilled cheese sandwiches, though.
I don't know. I guess I missed that. I don't remember it. Unless I ate it at school and didn't realize. Probably was eating it at school and didn't know.
Yeah. So we're gonna call it for the night. I'm starting to get a little sore in my leg. So, Mr. Foss, you got anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, give me just a second so I can get it typed in here. www. Gearwebsites.com, a place for 2A related stickers, patches, t-shirts, whatever, web design, tech consulting, you name it, he can probably do it. And then also there's a link that's pinned for the Indiegogo for G-Webs is raising some funds for a new sewing machine. So you can do 2-way patches and whatnot. So check it out.
Mr. New York Outcast.
No plugs. Thanks for having me, and thanks for joining us. I could leave you with this. Why does Dr. Pepper come in a bottle?
Because it's scared of a can? I don't know.
Because his wife died.
Mr. G-Webs, you got anything you want to promote before we get out of here? Talk a little bit more about Indiegogo and...
Yeah, thanks again for hosting and for Foss for mentioning it. And yeah, we're doing the project. It's got till Monday. So anybody that wants to jump in on it, please do. Welcome your participation. Once I've got the thing and start producing stuff, I mean, my goal is to be able to print or whatever, sew out, 10 at a time, 10 patches at a time. So if we're talking 100 people or so participating in this thing, it's hopefully reasonable for me to be able to come up with some kind of patch to say thanks for the project in addition to the one we'll have made. So we'll be saying thanks to the people that, with perks and stuff to the people that participate. But then going forward, we're going to remember the people that helped us with this thing. And as we are able to make production runs going forward, we'll make sure that everybody is appreciated for their effort to help us with this thing. Then those people that aren't participating financially, we do need help getting the word out there. That's how it works. You get the thing shared as many times as possible. Human beings see it, which is great, but really the mechanisms behind the internet and see how often it's being shared, and that it's a popularity contest on the internet. So as soon as 2 of them see that the third one is promoting it, they start promoting it too, and you can help us or help kickstart that kind of that process or that mechanism by sharing it out there. So we do appreciate that. Part of the ulterior motives, again, is so that we can have another project to share with those advocates out there that are doing really good stuff and need either the awareness of how to fund or just the funding itself. And, we offer those folks that are out there doing stuff out there for Second Amendment focused things, a chance to look behind the scenes and see how under the hood, see how it works, see how we plan it, when it's successful, when it's not. And, I'd take people if they want and show them old projects, the ones that have already happened so that they can see this one in process, but also after the fact, become something that we have as a reference. So again, thanks for sharing it. And thanks for helping us to get another tool that we can use for, I guess now, hats and patches and whatever else we can figure out to cram in there and embroider on. Looking forward to playing with it.
Shirts. We can do logos on shirts.
Yeah. It seems like there's like these big magnetic things. So if that's the case, then it seems like it'd be pretty simple to get, a couple of shirts for people or whatever. Basically like whatever an Izod shirt is, a collared shirt.
Oh yeah, and I know Foss, you should be doing your live stream late night tonight.
Yeah.
So 11 Pacific, if
Yep.
I'm right.
Yes.
And thank you for being on here as a co-host for, going on 3 years. I think it's March 17th. I think it will be 3 years that we've been doing this show. So
3 years, but it feels like forever.
yeah. So everyone, have a good night. I know Suicide Prevention Saturday on a Great Start shooting should be starting here pretty soon if it's not already going. And Hillbilly Up will be doing a live stream like 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. So check them out.